It's just another lively day at the market, bustling with people as usual. Amid the clamor, a lady is trying to peddle her sweet watermelons. That's when a guy with an unpleasant face approaches her and starts asking if her watermelons are ripe enough. The poor girl feels a bit uncomfortable with this creep making double-meaning jokes, but since he's a customer, she politely assures him that they are definitely ripe, with a money-back guarantee. The guy then grabs a piece of watermelon. After savoring this juicy bite, he pretends not to like it at all and claims the watermelons aren't sweet and that she's definitely lying. This son of a gun gets even cockier. He points his finger at the innocent girl, accusing her of lying, and begins throwing every insult imaginable her way. He even goes so far as to kick over her entire stall. His goons, just as creepy as their boss, seem thrilled by the chance to have their fun with someone as beautiful as her. They quickly lay their filthy hands on her, while the onlookers can do nothing but watch in horror as these thugs harass the young girl. The poor lady is crying her eyes out while these damned fools continue to grope her, completely disregarding her distress. Just then, a bamboo stick comes flying through the air, hitting the harasser with godly accuracy, and the stick directly goes straight into his backside. He collapses to the ground in pain, blood pouring from his back as the stick remains lodged inside him. The one who threw the bamboo with such a godly aim is none other than the girl's brother, and he's absolutely furious to see his sister harassed by these hobos. The lackeys are angry, while their boss can't hold back his tears and orders his thugs to kill him. But before anything can happen, our boy throws another bamboo stick at lightning speed, and this time, it lands right in the harasser's mouth. The crowd stands in shock, unable to believe their eyes as the man gets penetrated once again, and that's some hardcore stuff. The lackeys quickly charge toward our boy at their boss's command, but he starts swinging his stick frantically, making them retreat momentarily. However, they regroup and begin pummeling him mercilessly. The poor girl can do nothing but watch as her brother is beaten up badly. Thankfully, the police arrive just in time, and the harassers quickly drag their royally fucked boss and make a hasty exit before the police can screw them over. The girl rushes to her brother, urging him to wake up. Blood dribbles from his mouth, and as it falls on the pendant he's wearing, he begins to drift into an unconscious realm. There, he sees his pendant shimmering brightly before his eyes. Strange red and blue energy leaks from the pendant and quickly enters his eyes. The next scene takes us to the hospital. Our hero finally wakes up, and as he frantically sits up, his face lands right into something fluffy. Turns out, he's accidentally bumped into the nurse's chest, which makes him blush a bit. The nurse gets annoyed to see this creep trying to taste her melons without her permission, and demands to know what in the hell he is doing. He quickly apologizes, saying it was unintentional, but she warns him that if it was on purpose, she'll call security. The dude huffs out some steam in response, and points at her prominent saggy chest, saying it's not his fault if those baddies were in his way. He sits back, his head still spinning, trying to figure out what the heck is going on and why he's still hallucinating. Just then, his sister bursts into the room. He quickly reassures her that he's fine, but then he notices something that makes him freak out. He sees through her clothes and spots her underwear, which causes him to slam his eyes shut and shout at her to put on some clothes. His sister feels concerned to see his behavior and gets closer to check his temperature, worried that his fever might be affecting his mind. While she confirms he doesn't have a fever, she's still unsure if he might have a concussion. Meanwhile, this clueless dude has no idea what's going on. Right then, his eyes start showing him a bunch of random stuff, revealing that he's got yin-yang eyes. Apparently, he has got yin on the left and yang on the right. The yin eye receives invisible nether while the yang eye can pierce through matter. He wonders if this means he now has X-ray vision. Deciding to give it a try, he focuses and starts seeing everything outside. He's thrilled to see it's actually working. He then focuses further and accidentally spies into the office of the senior doctor, who is having a rather questionable time with a nurse who looks to be around his daughter's age. After seeing this creepy middle-aged guy, Han is literally feeling as if he wants to puke his guts. Anyhow, he continues to use his new vision and spots a particularly voluptuous nurse. His tongue starts to dangle out of his mouth in awe after seeing this much hotness. He looks around his room to make sure no one's watching and then uses his ability to look through the walls again. He spots the same voluptuous nurse and begs her to turn around so he can see her beauty with his own eyes. When she finally turns, it's revealed that she's actually an unattractive woman with a double chin, nearly causing him to faint from shock. Right at that moment, a nurse comes into the room and tells his sister to pay the hospital bill. The sister quickly follows the nurse out, and he uses his ability once more to see his sister handing over money. She asks if the amount is sufficient, and the nurse confirms it is, as there were no serious issues with him, so he can leave the hospital immediately. When he sees how his sister is struggling to even gather up his medical fees, he vows to put his new ability to good use, and decides to make his sister's life better than ever. Once the siblings are outside, the brother waves goodbye to his sister, saying he has some work to do and will be back by evening. Before we continue this story any further, I invite you to check out webcomics. Thousands of unique comics and free chapters are already waiting for you here. They sponsored this video, and if you enjoyed this story, you can read next chapters here, link in the description. As he makes his way into the city, he's lost in thought, contemplating how he can make money with his yin-yang eyes. Suddenly, he notices a commotion nearby in a shady alley. A woman with a stall is hosting some kind of dice game, and a bunch of boys are gathered around, eager to participate. The woman announces that it's time to place bets on either big or small numbers. Most people bet on big numbers. Using his yin-yang eyes, our boy looks through the glass and can clearly tell that the numbers on the dice are small. The sum of the 3 dice is around 10, which is considered a small number. Any sum over 10 would be a big number. When the woman reveals the dice, it's indeed the small numbers, and the crowd goes wild with frustration. They've been continuously losing their money, and they have begun to suspect that this woman is trying to scam them. On the other hand, the lady happily collects all the money from the table, expressing her gratitude to everyone for their patronage. Once she spots our boy in the crowd, she flicks her finger and politely asks if he wants to play as well. Han steps forward and, before the game starts, he lets her know that she is putting her hooters too much on display. The lady pretends to blush and says if she covers up, her customers will disappear. She then gets straight to the point, asking if he's ready for the bet. Once Han says yes, she places the dice in the glass, gives it a solid shake, and sets it down on the table. As everyone starts placing their bets, Han uses his X-ray vision and sees that all the numbers are big this time. When the lady asks what number he's going to choose, he confidently throws down a note and bets 10 yuan on big numbers. The woman is visibly irritated as she sees this broke guy only betting this measly sum of money, but she still pulls up the cup. As expected, the numbers are big. She collects the loser's money and begrudgingly hands over a note to our boy for his win. Once he takes the money, he's feeling absolutely thrilled after making money with little to no effort. He begins to feel like a wolf who's just been served a feast on a silver platter. It took no effort at all, and now he's hooked. As the game goes on, he keeps racking up the cash. Half an hour flies by, and the woman is clearly annoyed, because my guy is winning every single time, and his hands are so full of cash he's struggling to hold it all. The bystanders start calling him a genius gambler, while others chalk it up to dumb luck. Meanwhile, Han is just overflowing with pride, realizing he's just made more money in a few minutes than most people do in a month. He even begins to think that he might actually escape the Matrix and live a well-deserved, comfortable life. Meanwhile, the woman is gritting her teeth in utter frustration. She is pissed off that if this keeps up, she's definitely going to go broke. As she fumes, Han throws a cheeky jab at her, telling her that anger doesn't suit a pretty girl like her. The woman takes the bait, and she finally decides to bet big this time. But when Han looks at her large chest, which is practically bigger than his head, he jokingly reminds her there's no need to bet, as she's already got something big on display. The woman gets visibly frustrated and makes it clear that after losing so much money, he's going to have to gamble with her big no matter what. The boy remains calm and asks the woman how much she wants to bet. She leans in with a sly grin, saying that if he loses, he'll have to give up all his money. But if she loses, not only will she gladly hand over her cash, but she'll also do anything he says. The crowd of onlookers starts drooling at the thought, their imaginations running wild, while she ups the ante, adding that if he loses, he'll have to strip naked and go streaking. But my guy doesn't falter and confidently declares he's not afraid. And with that, the final game is about to begin. She slams her hand onto the table, flicks the dice high into the air, and with lightning-fast reflexes, catches them in the glass. This time, she gives the glass such an incredible, almost supernatural shake that the whole crowd loses their minds, marveling at her god-tier dice-handling skills. While the woman boasts about her impressive dice skills, Han is just too busy counting his cash that he does not have any time to pay much attention. Annoyed, the girl snaps at him, asking if he's just going to stand there counting instead of focusing on the game. He simply replies that he doesn't need to worry about the game because, to him, she's just a sitting duck. Fuming with anger, she slams the glass back onto the table with such force that dust rises up around the area. Her confidence is touching new heights, and she declares that he's done for, but Han sees her as nothing more than a show-off. The woman demands to know whether he'll be betting big or small this time. As she says this, we hear her thoughts while she thinks that since the dice haven't stopped rolling, she can just change the outcome in her favor. No matter what he chooses, she's confident she's got this in the bag. But her confidence takes a hit when Han places his hand over the glass, leaving the woman petrified to realize he's already aware of her trick. At that moment, Han confidently bets on big numbers and even goes so far as to predict that all the dice are 6 this time. When he reveals the dice, it's all 6s, which leaves the crowd completely boggled. Han, on the other hand, just basks in this glory, and dabs while saying that gambling is quite fun. Meanwhile, the shady girl tries to slip away while everyone's distracted, but our guy quickly closes in on her, asking about their deal. The girl anxiously asks what he wants her to do. He replies that he's sure they can work something out, and the way he's looking at her makes it clear what's on his mind. That's when the girl points up at the sky and yells that there's a flying saucer. With that, she bolts out of there, calling them a bunch of idiots for believing in such nonsense. Han also starts chasing her down, and they both keep running, and she quickly ducks into a shady alley. When he reaches the alley, he thinks she's gone, but we spot her hiding in the building nearby. Using his X-ray vision, he quickly locates her hiding inside a building room. He hops into the room through the window, grabs her like a toddler, and reminds her that she wanted to gamble, so she better pay up now. If she doesn't cough up the money, he'll have to beat the crap out of her because he believes in gender equality. Suddenly they hear voices, and when they turn around, there's a guy in a wheelchair surrounded by a bunch of spirits. Our guy is so freaked out that he throws the woman aside and asks the man who the hell he is. What is freaking out our boy more is how this guy is attracting so many spirits with him. The man explains that he's her brother and asks if she's been causing trouble again. She quickly sides with her brother and says that she hasn't caused any trouble, and our boy is the one who tried to scam her. Han calls her a shameless sore loser for her mindless accusations, and reminds her that she lost the bet fair and square, so she better hand over the money. The lady just teases him while standing next to her brother, making it clear that she isn't going to give him a single penny, and he can come over and hit her if he wants. Han reminds her once again that just because she's a woman, he won't shy away from slapping her. The girl, on the other hand, tries to provoke him by daring him to come at her if he has the guts. They keep throwing jabs at each other until the wheelchair guy, fed up with their squabbling, slaps his sister so hard she flies a few meters away. She innocently asks her brother why he slapped her, to which he reminds her that he's told her countless times not to gamble, and asks if she's forgotten how his legs were broken in the first place. The girl then states that gambling is the fastest way to pay for his treatment, and she doesn't want him to be stuck like this for the rest of his life. Han's curiosity peaks when he hears this, and he uses his yin-yang eyes to examine what's wrong with the guy's legs. He quickly determines that the hamstrings have been severed at his calf. Both the woman and the guy in the wheelchair are stunned by this revelation. The guy in the wheelchair asks how he can tell so much so quickly. My guy just acts all nonchalant while explaining that he can see everything at a single glance. That's when the rowdy woman walks over to him, though she still is calling him a brat. She begs him to help her brother if he knows what's wrong. At first, Han looks annoyed and disinterested, and simply turns his gaze away. But it doesn't take long for him to go from acting all tough to being a total simp as soon as his hand brushes against her milky factories. She gives him a twinkle and says that if he can cure her brother, she's willing to give him whatever he wants. Of course, Han isn't falling for the same trick twice. He quickly pushes her away and explains that he can't do anything about it. With that, he starts to leave. In his mind, the reason he doesn't want to help is that he doesn't know these people, and helping them might expose his own abilities. That's when the guy in the wheelchair speaks up, suggesting they strike a deal. Han stops in his tracks and looks around, asking what kind of deal he's talking about. The guy with the broken legs explains that he'll teach Han how he became the Southwest King, and promises to teach him all his fighting skills in exchange for curing his legs. When the injured guy reveals his true identity, Han is shocked and asks if he's really that legendary Zhao Hengtian. The man confirms it, saying he's indeed Zhao Hengtian in the flesh. This makes our boy even more curious because Zhao Hengtian was a big deal back in the day, and Han can't figure out how he ended up like this. The girl tries to explain how her brother ended up in this state, but Zhao quickly shuts her up. Then he turns to our boy and asks him what he thinks about the deal. Han is unsure about all this. He can see what's wrong with Zhao's legs but isn't sure how to cure them. He then concentrates, and a bunch of options pop into his head. The first thing is the Ghost Valley Medical, while the second thing is Classic's Qi refining technique. Han looks pretty confident after figuring out his two new tricks, and starts strolling forward silently. The woman tells him to stop beating around the bush, and asks if he's going to heal her brother or not. The gangster guy, meanwhile, has pretty much given up on his legs, saying even the best doctors couldn't fix them, so he's lost hope. But Han confidently says he can handle it, even if those doctors couldn't. The broken leg guy is shocked, and his sister lights up with happiness, asking Han if he's for real. Han confirms it, saying he'll need some time to get ready before he can start. The desperate man quickly says Han can take as long as he needs, and promises that if his legs get fixed, he'll be in his debt and be his servant for years. Even the sister jumps on our boy and hugs him tightly, thanking him profusely. This creepy simp hugs her back, telling her there's no need to thank him. After making the promise to help, he is not really feeling too happy about it. You see, the only reason he came here was to ask for his money, but now it feels awkward to bring it up. Even his inner devil is fuming, reminding him that this is what you get for getting too generous. As he is strolling outside in the streets, he hears a merchant shouting about a clearance sale, which contains blue and white porcelain from the Ming dynasty for just 3,000 yuan. The mention of porcelain catches Han's interest, and he excitedly runs over to check it out, hoping to find something valuable. When he finally gets there, the merchant boasts about all the items, and these items include blue and white porcelain from the Ming dynasty, landscape paintings from the Song dynasty, and a bronze bell from the Warring States period. One of the guys in the crowd asks about the price of the bronze bell from the Warring States period. The merchant, with a greedy smirk, demands 320 yuan and insists he's offering it at a steal. Han, however, sees through the merchant's trickery. Using his supernatural eye abilities, he spots that the jades are actually made of glass, the ink on the paintings is still wet, and even the bronze bell is just plastic. Pissed off by the scam, Han decides to walk away instead of buying any of the junk this scammer is selling. As he leaves, he notices an old man accompanied by a girl. This old man apparently isn't just any ordinary Joe, he's actually Zhou Mingshan, an elderly explorer known for discovering many valuable items. The granddaughter asks her old man, why don't they just go straight to Mingyu Pavilion, saying she's pretty sure he won't find anything real here. The old man just chuckles and says, that's what makes it interesting. He asks the merchant to show him the blue and white porcelain. The merchant hands over a bottle. Once the jar is in his hands, the old man gives it a good look, and his granddaughter also pipes up, telling her grandpa that it's obviously fake. Even if it were real, it wouldn't be worth much because of the crack. The old man agrees, and casually tosses the jar back to the merchant. Other customers who were interested in buying a while ago also started walking away, saying if these items were legit, they'd have been snapped up already. Elder Joe also decides to leave too. That is when our boy shouts out that he'll gladly take the blue and white porcelain. Both the old man and his granddaughter curiously turn around after hearing our boy's crisp voice. Han repeats himself with the same enthusiasm, saying he'll definitely take the porcelain. The greedy merchant quickly hands over the jar and further tries to flatter Han by saying he has a good eye for these things. He then demands 3,000 yuan for the Ming dynasty antique. Han confidently pulls out a stash of cash and hands it over. As soon as the merchant takes the money, he bolts out of there with his fake stuff, grinning from ear to ear, thinking he just pulled one over on Han. The bystanders start laughing and mocking him as well, pointing out how a person would have to be dumb enough to fall for that scam. That girl from before also throws a jab, calling him an idiot for wasting 3,000 yuan on something fake. But my guy isn't about to take any nonsense, and he fires back, reminding her that the real fools are the ones so confident they can't even recognize when something is actually real. The girl is clearly annoyed by his insult, but her grandpa steps in to calm her down. He then asks Han if a cracked vase like this could actually be genuine. Han confidently corrects him, saying the vase isn't broken, and that it's indeed authentic blue and white porcelain. Despite his assurance, the onlookers just laugh and make fun of him for thinking that. Even the girl and the old man chuckle at Han, with the old man advising him not to be too impulsive. He explains that appraising antiques at a glance takes years of experience and isn't as easy as it looks. Han then flips the entire bottle of water over the vase, and as the dirt washes away, the design starts to become visible. The Baldy's bald head is officially shocked by this reveal, and our boy further confidently tells the old man to take a closer look, pointing out that the porcelain was just covered in mud and wasn't actually broken. Honestly, it seems a bit ridiculous. I mean, how could an old man who lost all his hair after spending his whole life studying antiques not figure out how to brush off the dust? The writing here is kind of hilariously bad. Anyway, the elder Joe is intrigued by Han's keen eye for such a young guy. Even the onlookers are in awe, realizing that if the porcelain is real, it could be worth millions. They admit they were blind not to see it earlier. Han feels pretty satisfied, knowing that with his yin-yang eyes, he's in a league of his own. It looks like this still isn't enough to satisfy the pink-haired girl, and she points her finger at Han, reminding him that he still needs to prove the porcelain is authentic. Han decides to make a bet. He asks her what she'll do if the porcelain really is authentic. The girl replies that she'd buy it for twice the market price. Then she asks what Han will do if it turns out to be fake. Han, not exactly the smoothest with words, blunders that he'll give his whole body to her. The girl annoyingly corrects him, saying it would be better if he just worked for her as an unpaid employee instead. They both clap their hands to seal the deal. Meanwhile, Baldy McShine is thoroughly impressed by Han's eye for detail and hopes that if he ends up working with his granddaughter, it'll be beneficial for everyone involved. The old man reminds everyone that there's a special appraiser at Mingyu Pavilion, so they decide to head there to verify the porcelain's authenticity. So, the three of them, Han, Yun-Er, who is the pink-haired girl by the way, and the old man, make their way to Mingyu Pavilion. When they arrive, the attendant greets them warmly. It turns out this boy, Lin Baimo, seems to know this Baldy already. Once they get into the office, the old man kicks off the conversation by telling the attendant they need help appraising something. Yunner explains that the vase Han is holding is supposedly fake, according to her grandpa, while Han claims it's actually valuable. Baimo then gives his verdict, saying since Elder Joe thinks it's fake, it has already been settled. Han gets pretty annoyed by their biased attitude. He asks how they can pass opinions like this even without looking at the thing. Baimo retorts that he's never seen Han before, which means this is Han's first time at Antique Street. Han agrees and asks what the big deal is. Baimo continues to belittle our boy, saying he's seen plenty of people like Han who come in thinking they're smart but are just arrogant. Well, that is the last straw. Han is finally fed up with their nonsense. He starts to walk away, saying if they're going to give him attitude, he'll just find someone else to help him. Yunner then tries to reason with our boy, but the old man quickly tells her to just sit quietly. That's when Baimo speaks up, telling Han to chill out. He says that since Elder Joe is here, he won't let his elder leave without paying proper respect. Han turns around with his confused face and asks what that even means. Baimo explains that there are 3 fake items among the antiques in the room. If Han can find at least one of them, he'll appraise the vase for free and even buy it from Han. Outwardly, Han pretends the challenge is a big deal, but inside, he's laughing at these fools for throwing such an easy challenge in his way. The challenge is just as easy as wiping his butt in the toilet. After seeing the anxious face of our boy, Baimo asks if he is scared, to which Han confidently replies that fear is the last thing on his mind. He's actually looking forward to giving Baimo a wake-up call. Elder Joe asks if 1 hour will be enough for the challenge. Han just says he won't need that long, and just as he says this, he heads towards the artifacts confidently. As Han starts inspecting the artifacts, he raises his finger and confidently says that he only needs 1 minute to complete the challenge. Baimo just laughs it off, proudly claiming that Han won't be able to find anything, no matter how carefully he looks. Even Baldy starts sweating his bald head, worried about Han's audacity, and tells him to reconsider. Before Baimo and the others can even finish laughing, Han collects all 3 fake antiques in just a few minutes like it's no big deal. This leaves Baimo completely stunned and furious. He's losing his mind because he never thought Han would finish the task so quickly. It's just unbelievable. Not only does Han confidently collect the 3 fake antiques, but he also breaks down why they're bogus. He points out that the pearls are made of sand, the top and bottom halves of the vase were joined separately, and the bronze statue base is glued on. Baimo is absolutely shocked. He's thinking that even the best appraisers in the country wouldn't be able to spot these fakes. Then Han takes out another item and claims it's also fake, making it a total of 4 fake artifacts. He places the so-called luminous pearl on the table, and Baimo starts yelling, claiming that it's one of the most precious pieces from his collection. But Han just throws the pearl on the ground, which leaves everyone in shock. As the pearl cracks open, they discover that it's just a little ball of copper inside a shell. Our boy then asks if he still has to prove anything further. Baimo quickly bows his head and apologizes, calling Han master and admitting he was wrong. Han just chuckles to himself, and he is feeling quite proud of himself. He tells Baimo to forget about it, since he wanted to keep his appraisal skills a secret anyway, but it seems the cat's already out of the bag. While Han is basking in his own glory, others can't help but feel a bit annoyed at how smug he looks. Anyway, Baimo respectfully directs Han to their next destination, saying he'll arrange for someone to appraise the vase. A while later, we see that the 3 of them are just sitting patiently in the waiting room while the vase is sent off for appraisal. Finally, a man walks out of the room with the vase in his hands and announces that this blue and white porcelain is genuine and worth almost 1,000,000 yuan. Baimo gently takes the vase and tells the thin-mustached man to leave. He then turns to Han and confirms that the porcelain is indeed real. Our boy smiles to hear this, and happily tells the girl that he's won the bet. As much as she hates it, she begrudgingly admits it's not a big deal. She then offers him her card, saying it has 2,000,000 yuan and gives him the PIN code. Han is utterly stunned and can hardly believe he's just earned 2,000,000 so easily. Even the Baldy is fascinated, and can't help but to laugh at how this brat turned his measly 3,000 into 2,000,000, which is something utterly extraordinary. Just as the old man was laughing heartily, he suddenly starts choking, and faints right into his granddaughter's arms. Baimo quickly tells the staff to prepare a car to take the old man to the hospital, but it looks like time is running out, and the old man finally loses consciousness. The girl cries as she feels devastated by her grandfather's declining health, while Baimo is panicking, knowing that if the old man dies here, he'll be in a lot of trouble. That's when our boy decides to step in. Using his supernatural eyes, he examines the old man and discovers that Elder Joe's coronary arteries are blocked, which is a problem that seems to have been ongoing for quite some time. The thin-mustached man quickly reports that the car is ready. Baimo picks up the old man in his arms and starts dashing out of the room, determined not to let him die here. But Han steps into his path and tells him they won't make it to the hospital in time. But Baimo is sure that if they don't make it, it will be Han's fault, so he better get out of the way. Han tries to argue, saying that he has studied medicine and might be able to save the old man. Baimo, however, starts to dash out, saying he doesn't have time fooling around. That's when Yuner speaks up, urging Baimo to let Han try, but this dude is stubborn and advises her against it. However, the girl keeps insisting and states that she trusts him, so he does not have to worry about anything. Reluctantly, Baimo allows Han to check the old man's health. Han then uses one of his abilities, known as Ghost Valley's medical technique, and performs divine acupuncture. He swings his hands around and begins chanting this random spell, and this blue arcane energy begins to pour down into the old man's chest. Once Han finishes his spell, he looks utterly exhausted and plops back onto the seat. A while later, we see the old man is still lying unconscious. The girl anxiously walks to our boy and asks him if her grandfather will wake up. Our boy replies that he's done all he can, and now it's up to the gods to decide if the old man will pull through. Luckily, the old man starts to open his eyes, and the three of them are shocked to see him actually awake. Yuner immediately rushes to her grandfather and hugs him tightly. Once he is completely back to his senses, the old man starts expressing his gratitude to Han, saying his chest no longer hurts and his breathing is easier. But our boy quickly downplays it, saying there's nothing to worry about and advises him to take better care of his health in the future. Meanwhile, Baimo is still unable to believe what he's just witnessed. Even the world's most renowned doctors couldn't cure Elder Joe's illness, but Han managed to heal him right away. He even starts to think that maybe Han could also help him with his own family troubles. Baimo quickly walks up to Han, bows his head and asks if he can help him with a favor. Even though our boy keeps his cool and casual demeanor, inside he's going crazy with happiness to see Baimo bowing, especially since this dude had been so cocky earlier. Eventually, our boy agrees to help, and the dude promptly explains that his father has a chronic headache that no doctor can cure, so he asks our hero if he can take care of it. Han thinks for a second. You see, he hasn't fully mastered the Ghost Valley medical technique yet, and his previous success might have just been beginner's luck, but he sees this as a great chance to earn some goodwill with the Lin family. He tells Baimo he'll need at least a month to prep, but promises he'll do his best to help out. As expected, the guy showers our boy with praise and promises that the Lin family will always be there to help him in any situation. He is so happy to the point that he decides to throw a party for everyone. The mood is set for a great time, but Yuner is still thinking about Han, and she is thinking about how to get closer to him, hoping he'll work for her in the future. As night falls, we find ourselves in the bustling heart of the city. Inside a restaurant, there's a huge spread of food laid out, and Han and his companions are clinking glasses and having the time of their lives. After the fancy dinner, our boy finds himself standing in the hotel lobby. Since it's gotten pretty late, he decides to text his sister to let her know where he is, so she doesn't worry. I find it pretty hilarious how much has happened to Han in just one day. At first, his sister gets harassed, he then gets hospitalized, then chases a scammer girl, and also promising to help her brother, and now winding down with a nice dinner after all that appraisal drama. Anyway, our boy suddenly spots Yuner getting harassed by someone. The harasser has a flower in his mouth and is trying to hit on her. Yuner quickly tells him to stop bothering her, and it looks like she even knows this guy, whose name is Bai Luofei. She then tells this thug that she already has a boyfriend. Of course, the harasser refuses to believe her and claims that he's already checked around, so he can confidently say that she's lying. He then declares that his feelings for her are genuine and tells her to accept his confession. But deep down, this jerk just likes her because of her looks, and the only reason he is interested in her is because he just wants to clap her cheeks. That's when our boy steps in and grabs this harasser by the hand, telling him to cut it out. The harasser snaps back, telling our boy to screw off. Our boy doesn't appreciate the attitude, so he grabs this shithead by the wrist and starts squeezing hard enough to make him groan in pain. The harasser quickly tells our boy to let go because it hurts like hell. Han quickly fulfills his request by throwing him against the wall with such force that the wall shatters upon impact, leaving this harasser even more battered. That is when Yuner sees her chance to get close to our boy, so she quickly jumps over to him and starts asking him what took him so long and how he can stand someone trying to make moves on his girlfriend. Our boy is shocked to hear that, which leaves him wondering when he became her boyfriend, and the harasser is equally stunned that someone like our boy is her partner. Meanwhile, Yuner further tries to charm our boy, and eventually he starts to drool over her, saying he'd gladly help her out. On the other hand, Bai Luofei is fuming that Han is the one getting to touch her and feel the warmth of her body. Bai Luofei charges at our hero in frustration, but our guy quickly turns around and gives him a solid kick, sending him flying a few meters away. Han then smirks, thinking to himself that with his new techniques, a harasser like Bai Luofei is no match for him. He then places his hand over Yuner's peachy butt and begins to walk away with her, telling her not to pay any attention to desperate losers like him. Naturally, this remark pisses Bai Luofei off even more. He shouts about how dare this bastard steal his girlfriend and vows to make him regret it. Nonetheless, Han continues to walk with his newly acquired girlfriend, and he starts to get more and more physical with her. Yunner quickly pinches him to bring him back to reality, and annoyingly asks if he's still not satisfied after groping her. He quickly withdraws his hands and says he was just playing along to make the act more convincing. After getting agitated, Yunner walks away but then stops and turns back toward Han. With a blush on her cheeks, she tells him she'll take him somewhere exciting tomorrow. Han gets completely excited to hear this, and he even begins to imagine himself getting pummeled and treated like a dog. The next day, they find themselves at a stone market known as the Jade Market. Han is utterly dumbfounded when he realizes that what he'd imagined was all just in his head. He's confused about why Yunner is so excited about coming here to gamble her money. Yunner explains that at this market, you either get rich by picking the right jade stone or go broke with a fake one. This gamble is what turns her on every time she visits. She grabs him by the hand and starts dragging him along, eager to dive into the excitement. As he gets dragged along, he's at least relieved that he practiced his refining technique last night, so he's confident he won't lose. Once they finally get inside, he looks around and sees countless jades, each listed at different prices. It's clear Yunner is a regular here, because the shop attendant greets her promptly with great respect. We also see an old lady who is equally excited to see Yunner, and she mentions how Yunner cracked open an ice jade last time, and praises her as a true gamble queen, just like her grandfather. Yunner brushes off the flattery, while Han in the background can't help but think that since she is pro in this game, she probably brought him along to test him. Finally, the big cheese of the place arrives, which is a grumpy old man. The first thing he says is that the reason Yunner won yesterday was because he wasn't around. The onlookers erupt in murmur as the old man arrives. Some say Master Wong has an incredible eye for jade, and can easily go toe-to-toe with the gambling king himself. Others mention they've heard Master Wong found a top-grade glass jade already. Han then asks Yunner about this old man. The girl then promptly explains that his jewelry company is one of her rivals, and they compete for suppliers all the time. Master Wong announces that since a member of the Zhou family is here, he's itching to compete and see who can pick the most valuable stones. It's quite clear that Master Wong is a serious pro. Her eye for jade isn't as sharp as his, and if she loses, the Zhou family's reputation could take a serious hit. She even considers calling her grandfather to compete against this old man. That's when the old coot starts laughing at Yunner, mocking her and asking if she's already scared. He tells her not to run home crying. Han steps up to save her pride, and tells the old man that they're far from scared and ready to accept his challenge. The spectators have no clue who the hell this young gun even is, and they just sneer at the idea of a random guy competing against one of the most skilled players. Master Wong even throws a difficult question at our boy, asking what gives him the right to represent the Zhou family. Not surprisingly, this overconfident idiot is a bit lost for words, but Yunner quickly grabs his hand and tells the old man that Han is her boyfriend, and, as the Zhou family's son-in-law, he will represent them. The onlookers, who were already looking for a chance to hit on Yunner, are left stunned and bewildered, wondering how she could have a boyfriend just like that. Finally, the old man agrees to accept the challenge, but he wants to make a little deal first. Yunner asks what kind of deal he's talking about. The old coot explains that he's heard the Zhou family owns a jade shop in the middle of the city, and he wants that spot for himself. The random NPCs standing around start murmuring again, pointing out that the Zhou family spent shit ton of money to get that shop. If they agree to this deal, it means they'd be giving up their shop. Han, however, remains confident and asks the old man what if they win. The old man just laughs it off, and the crowd murmurs among themselves, saying no one stands a chance against Master Wong except maybe the old Master Zhou, so they're convinced that the Zhou family is definitely going to lose their shop at this rate. The old man adds a twist to the deal. If he himself loses, he'll bark like a dog 3 times in front of everyone. Not only that, he also promises to give our boy a pile of valuables equal to the worth of the jade shop. The old man is so confident in himself that he doesn't think about the consequences of his words. He just sees Han as a young, arrogant brat. Meanwhile, Han is pretty happy as well, because the thought of all that treasure coming his way is seriously exciting. His fake girlfriend asks if he's confident about winning. Han just gives her a reassuring smile. The old man decides it's time to get things rolling and commence the match officially. Han also happily steps forward to pick out their jades. Yunner is a bundle of nerves at this moment, and she is clearly terrified about the stakes if they lose. As Han starts looking around for quality jades, Yunner tries to teach him how to pick a good one, but he's not really catching on and asks if he can just choose the red ones because they look pretty. The crowd starts laughing their heads off, calling him out for being a total idiot and wondering how Master Zhou ended up with such a dim-witted son-in-law. Yunner, on the other hand, is utterly mad at his cluelessness and asks why in the hell he picked up the challenge if he doesn't even know the basics. After she cools down a bit, she explains that the most valuable jade is the Lao Keng glass jade, and it's super clear, like glass. Han quickly gets back to searching, determined to find that perfect jade. She decides to handle it herself because she knows she can't rely on Han's judgment. However, she's startled when she sees that Han has already picked one. When she examines it, she's dumbfounded, because the jade is utterly useless. There's no crystallization, the outer layer is full of cracks, and it's worth only 500 yuan. Han just smirks in the background, and she eventually gives this overconfident brat a solid bonk on his head, and questions about his choice. She's sure there's nothing valuable in this piece, and is frustrated with his decision. The onlookers start trash-talking him again, saying he clearly knows nothing about jade, and that the stone he picked is total junk. One of them even points out that the stone has been sitting unsold for over a year, which is why it's so cheap. Meanwhile, the old man finishes picking out his stone and points out that since he's chosen his, they can start cutting them. Just then, Yunner rushes in and frantically tells our boy to change the stone, but Han quickly grabs her hand and moves in closer, whispering to her to trust him. He promises that if he lets her down, he'll gladly accept any punishment she wants to give. She turns her head away, blushing, and asks him where he learned such terrible pickup lines. But then, with a mix of annoyance and affection, she tells him she's not scared of losing, so he can keep going. Meanwhile, the crowd is on the verge of tears, consumed by envy as they see him hogging all the affection from her. The old man then tells everyone not to waste time and to get on with it, as they already know that Han is already a loser. But our boy disagrees, letting everyone know that he's the one who's going to come out on top. The onlookers are in a panic, wondering where his confidence is coming from. Right on cue, 3 guys in black suits appear with specialized tools for extracting jade from stones. They pull out their hardcore, delicate extraction tools and start working on the stones. Yunner, meanwhile, sternly tells her team to cut her stone as well, but they only have these useless DIY tools that clearly aren't suited for delicate work. Han steps up and tells them to hand over their tools. He'll take care of the extraction. They quickly pass him the equipment, and Han grabs the axe with confidence. By now, Yunner is pretty sure that she is screwed. But suddenly, the guys in suits start shouting that they can see a green stone, and it's the most valuable kind. The old man can't help but crack a crooked smile, and everyone's jaws drop when they see the green jade. The onlookers even start bidding for it, and they just could not get tired of praising how rare it is. Meanwhile, Han still hasn't extracted his stone, and the old man tells the restless crowd they can start bidding once Han finishes his extraction. But the crowd is already convinced that the winner is clear. Yunner yells at him to stop stalling and cut it open already. Han then finally raises his axe, unleashes his natural powers, and brings the axe crashing down. The light leaking out of the rubble is so blinding that even the old man has to cover his eyes for a moment. When the light fades, the old man is boggled out of his mind to see the results. That is when we see our hero holding a pure jade in his hand, and finally declares his victory. The crowd, which had been busy belittling our boy all this time, is left with their jaws hanging wide. Even the old man is having a hard time accepting reality. He raises his finger and claims it's impossible for something like this to come from that trash stone. He even goes as far as to accuse Han of cheating. But my guy remains calm despite the accusation, and promptly begins swinging his axe and smashing another rock, revealing yet another jade. Once again, the crowd is left wide-eyed. Han doesn't stop there. He continues to smash rocks one by one, each time revealing pure jade. The old man's bald head is shining from sweat, and his eyes are about to pop out of their sockets. Meanwhile, Yunner is over the moon, thrilled by how Han has wrecked the competition. After a while, everyone except the old man is on their knees in front of our boy. He then turns to the baldy and decides it's finally time to discuss their deal now that the match is over. First, Han asks his fake girlfriend how much the old man's piece is worth. She reveals that it would be around 3.5 million yuan. At this, the crowd erupts with excitement and begins bidding for our boy's jade, and the bidding starts from the minimum of 5 million that goes up to an astounding 25 million yuan. The old man then tries to get the crowd to bid on his jade as well, promising to take only half the price from his client. However, the client quickly punches the old man away, furious that he had the nerve to bet against Master Han. Another client also declares that since Han is in high demand now, they won't let his offenders live to see the next day. As the crowd surrounds our boy, the old man grits his teeth and decides he'll crush Han in a rematch. Just as he is sneaking away, Han throws the axe at him, which narrowly misses and passes between his legs. The baldy bastard begins to cry, while our boy tells him not to back out of his bet. With that said, he orders the old coot to start barking like a dog, just as they had promised. The baldy promptly complies, begging and making dog noises. Not gonna lie, the poor guy has lost all of his dignity at this point, reduced to nothing more than a literal dog. That is when our boy holds Yunner close, warning this dog to never bully his girlfriend ever again. The old man quickly agrees and starts hopping around in order to slip away. Once the baldy successfully sneaks out, this idiot finally remembers that he has yet to take the bet money from the old man. But Yunnair reassures him, saying no one would dare run off with the Zhou family's money. Speaking of the Zhou family, our boy quickly asks her since when he became part of the Zhou family, and if she's even talked to her parents about marriage. Yunnair gets totally embarrassed by this teasing and shoves him away. Meanwhile, the clients are really glad to be talking with our boy, and one of them humbly asks him if he's willing to sell his jade for 25 million yuan, and the client even promises to pay everything in advance. As soon as Han starts thinking about the huge sum of money, the first thing that pops into his mind is buying some solid Russians for himself. He gets so lost in his fantasies that he even lets his twisted thoughts slip out loud. When Yunnair hears this nonsense, she gets quite angry. Though she doesn't say anything, Han can sense the deadly aura she's radiating from behind him. To break the ice, he quickly tells the clients that the glass jade is reserved only for Yunnair and that they should buy the other jades instead. Hearing that the glass jade isn't for sale, the clients look disappointed and start to leave quietly, knowing their luck has run out. One of them waves goodbye before heading out. Yunnair is clearly thankful for everything and finally gives Han a well-deserved kiss right on his flustered face. The warmth of her lips sends this idiot's hormones into overdrive, and before he knows it, blood starts dripping from his nose. Meanwhile, the poor guys in the background can't help but feel a pang of jealousy at Han's insane luck. On the other hand, all Han can think about is how he has earned 30 million yuan in the blink of an eye, and how he's practically a rich guy. He's also relieved that his sister won't have to sell her big watermelons in public anymore. Yunnair snaps him out of his daydream, telling him to stop giggling and get moving before they get intercepted halfway down the road. With that in mind, Han grabs her hand, and they dash out of the place like maniacs. Once they hop into their Audi, they zoom down the road at high speed. As they race down, Han asks her if she wasn't planning to ask her grandpa to pick them up. Yunnair assures him that there's no need, claiming the road is more than safe. But just then, a car suddenly stops in the middle of the road. Thankfully, Yunnair's godlike driving skills save them all in the end. They stop their car, and Han asks the driver if he doesn't even know how to drive. Well, it's quite clear that these thugs don't have good intentions. Han is relieved that there are only 3 goons, because he is sure that he can handle that many. But Yunnair reminds him that he's underestimating the seating capacity of their car, the legendary Chevrolet Enjoy. Right on cue, a bunch of other goons start hopping out of the vehicle, leaving Han utterly confused and terrified at how so many people could fit inside one car. Well, it's the same red-headed guy he dealt with using a bamboo stick back in the first chapter. It looks like he's back to take revenge for the humiliation our boy had caused. As soon as our boy sees the red-headed guy, he starts radiating a deadly aura. Yunnair curiously asks if they know each other, to which Han reveals that they do, and introduces the redhead as third brother Chu. Han then teasingly asks Chu if his asshole still hurts. This remark catches the redhead off guard, and he instinctively puts his hand over his hole. His lackeys start to doubt their boss, wondering if he's into this kind of thing. The redhead feels agitated by this humiliation, and sternly tells Han to shut up. He pulls out a dagger, threatening Han and demanding he get into the car, or else he'll make him regret it. The lackeys also scoff to see our boy, stating that Han looks too skinny, and that they could take him out with just one hit. Yunnair asks him if he's actually sure about fighting them, and he confidently reassures her that he's got this under control. As he strides forward, Chu starts yelling, calling Han a stupid head and ordering his lackeys to cripple him by breaking his legs. The goons quickly follow the command, but my guy just sneers and starts using one of his chi techniques. Aura begins to gather in his palm, and with a single punch he sends the goons flying like confetti, making them kiss the ground. Yunnair is stunned by Han's display of power, while our boy just plays it cool and downplays himself to act all modest. However, we can also see that this idiot is secretly wincing in pain from overexerting his hand. The ugly dude, who was just acting all tough and cocky, scrambles under the car, thinking Han won't be able to find him. But my guy just casually lifts the vehicle as if it's a toy, and throws it away, and asks where this ugly piece of work is going. Realizing he's in deep trouble, the redhead abandons all pride, grabs Han's feet, and starts crying, begging for mercy, and promising he won't do it again. However, it looks like our boy is not in the mood to cut this guy any slack, and he grabs the redhead by the collar and demands to know who sent him. The redhead sobs as he reveals that Master Feng is behind it all. He confesses that Master Feng sent them to capture Han and Miss Zhou, but admits he doesn't know any further details. After getting the info, Han just chucks that punk aside like he's nothing but a ragdoll. The girl then spills the beans that Master Feng is a big-time Shanghai thug with loads of connections and not someone to mess with. The ugly guy gets back up and begs Han to let him go, saying he's already spilled everything he knows. Han gives him the green light to scram, but not before kicking him so hard he flies into the air. The girl asks Han what his next move is, and with a devilish grin, our boy suggests they should visit these bastards to settle the score. But before doing anything crazy, he decides to check on Zhao, the former famous fighter, who is nowadays down on his luck. As Han walks into the room, he's taken aback by the sheer amount of aura radiating from the broken leg guy. When Zhao finally opens his eyes, our boy says he's here to learn some boxing from him, and, while he's at it, he'll also fix Zhao's messed up legs. The wheelchair guy is stunned when he notices this sheer amount of aura our boy has accumulated in just a few days. Han just gives a ridiculous explanation, claiming that he met a beggar yesterday who labeled him as a martial arts prodigy with strange muscles and bones. The beggar supposedly asked him to maintain world peace and even gave him a pill to eat. Of course, Zhao isn't buying this nonsense. He eventually says he won't pry into his secrets, but points out that even with his chi abilities, Han won't be able to reach his full potential without proper skills. But our boy points out that's exactly why he came here. Zhao starts moving his hands and tells Han to pay close attention, saying he's about to reveal the secret to 5-element boxing. After performing a strange hand dance, the wheelchair guy unleashes a blade of power that slices through a little tree like it's nothing. While our boy is feeling absolutely happy to see this, Zhao brags that he only used less than 30% of his strength, but his sister immediately starts yelling at him, reminding him that she just planted that tree, and he destroyed it effortlessly. Anyhow, he then tells our boy that's the gist of the trick, and that he should give it a try himself. But as we get inside Zhao's head, we discover he's not just going to hand over his skills easily, because he spent 3 long years mastering them, so he's not letting Han go with his skills easily. That is when Han throws his own energy and obliterates the entire wall, leaving Zhao's jaw hanging in disbelief. Our boy, on the other hand, is thrilled that he pulled it off so easily. He then turns to Zhao and asks how that was. But that wheelchair fox downplays his prowess, saying it wasn't anything impressive and that Han wasn't half bad. That is when he pulls out a book and hands it over to our boy, saying it contains all his secrets. He can read it and ask questions if he doesn't understand anything. Meanwhile, in the background, Zhao's sister is livid about the destroyed wall. She eventually takes out her frustration on our boy with a series of solid punches and tells him not to come back until he fixes the damage. Almost 3 days later, we find ourselves at the sober bar, where this man is going wild with his singing, telling everyone that the big cheese of the area will be picking up the tab for the party. As the party continues, we see Han sitting there because, according to Yunner, this is Master Feng's base of operations. He's amazed that even someone influential like Yunner can't track this guy down easily. Since he can't reach Feng, Han decides to lure him out. He throws a bottle across the room, shattering it and causing chaos among the crowd. Thugs quickly surround Han, but as they charge at him, he starts swinging his fists and sends them flying like confetti. Within minutes, everyone is scattered on the ground, out for the count. One of the bald guys standing over the fallen thugs starts losing his cool, wondering if Han is a master. Right on cue, Master Feng shows up, and he is flanked by even more of these bald dudes. He gives Han props for having the guts to invade his territory, and he is sure that our boy must have a better explanation. Han fires back, reminding Feng about the incident about 3 days ago when he was intercepted by a bunch of goons on the road. Upon hearing this much, Master Feng quickly realizes who our boy is and commands his lackeys to grab him. Apparently, our boy is the one young Master Bai wanted, and the old man is glad that they don't have to go looking around as the rat has come by himself to them. The others around are stunned that someone like this brat was the one who dared to offend Master Bai. By the way, Bai is the same guy who was trying to harass Yunner in previous chapters. The lackeys jump at Han, but my guy just kicks them down and uses their bodies as a ladder to climb up to the top where Feng is standing. Feng is absolutely boggled out of his mind when he realizes that our hero is an aura master. Han confirms it and then starts questioning him, telling him to be truthful if he doesn't want to end up in a bad spot. Well, it looks like Master Feng isn't the type to let things slide. He tosses aside his support stick and unleashes his ultimate power. His muscles bulge, his clothes burn away, and he's ready for a serious battle with Han. Seems like our boy is not sure whether to feel astonished by the old man's jacked-up physique. In any case, he is not scared in the slightest, and provocatively tells Feng to bring it on. The whole place is enveloped in their thick auras, and the onlookers are absolutely terrified. Both fighters charge at each other with their respective powers, and when their energies collide, chaos erupts. The lackeys who were just watching are tossed around like confetti in the aftermath. After the heavy clash, Master Feng is covered in bruises, and our boy is also panting heavily. The onlookers are on edge, eagerly waiting to see who won. Han's body is on the verge of giving up, and he slumps to the ground. That is when Feng begins to laugh at Han for being inexperienced, but his cockiness disappears as he suddenly collapses, coughing up blood. He's boggled out of his mind as he wonders how he could lose to a brat like Han. That is when our boy reveals that he had already predicted this old man's moves. Using his yin-yang eyes, he saw the trajectory of his opponent's aura and knew exactly how to land the final blow. The crowd starts to tremble and back away in fear, realizing that Han has just defeated Feng. After getting thoroughly beaten by a young kid, the old man decides to play dirty and sneakily grabs a gun from his pocket. Meanwhile, Han starts asking this man about Bai Luofei, the guy who sent these goons after him. The old man asks him if he'll let him go if he answers his questions. Our boy quickly agrees to spare his life, but warns that he'll remove his skills to prevent him from causing harm to anyone. That is when this dirty old man aims his gun at Han with a huge grin on his face, leaving our boy nearly scared out of his wits. As the trigger is pulled, a loud bang echoes through the plaza, but it turns out the shot wasn't fired by the old man. Instead, it was the woman who fired the gun. The bullet pierces through the old man's hand, leaving Han completely puzzled about why the police are involved. In a matter of minutes, the entire area is swarmed by police officers, and they order everyone to stop moving and freeze the fight. The lackeys are quickly cuffed, and a lady officer approaches Han, asking if he's going to put on the handcuffs himself, or if she should help him with that. Eventually, Han gets pulled into an interrogation. After asking him for all the details, the same lady officer makes his profile, stating that he's 18 years old, with both parents deceased, and currently living with his elder sister, Ye Qing. Han happily confirms that's true, and he adds with a smile that he's just a law-abiding citizen. He tells her to let him go, since she can clearly see that in the reports. But this fat-ass lady quickly jumps over him and sternly asks if he's such a good citizen, then what the hell he was doing with third brother Q and his men a few days ago. My guy just flashes a grin in response, and further tells her that she'll have to ask third brother Q about it, as that old man was the one looking for him, so all our boy did was self-defense against those bastards. The peachy butt lady points out that over 30 of Chu's men were left in a coma, and Chu himself was seriously injured, so she's not buying the self-defense excuse. Han responds back, asking if he was supposed to just sit there and let them beat him up. The grumpy lady isn't satisfied with his answer. She grabs him by the collar and demands to know who sent him, whether it was special forces or some underground organization. As she's practically strangling him, Han can't help but drool as he gazes at her cleavage, thoroughly enjoying himself despite the situation. Well, this just frustrates the officer even more. She tries to kick him down, but he quickly grabs her hand, pushes her away, and ducks down, letting her leg zip above his head. That is the moment when the officer is mortified to realize this creepy bastard has gotten an unintended view of what's between her legs. On the other hand, Han tells her that they should go outside, as he would gladly show her his fighting skills. The woman is just plain annoyed by this idiot's antics, and as she's about to punch him, he raises her leg a bit more, and the sight between her legs causes him to bleed from his nose. Not gonna lie, this whole lewd stuff is definitely over the top and probably getting a bit much. Anyhow, the officer is about to punch our boy when another officer arrives, informing her that Director Zhou has arrived and is releasing Master Feng's group of criminals. The woman acknowledges the report and says she'll look into the matter. She then instructs the officer to bring Han along with her. The officer promptly grabs our boy and hoists him into the air like a toddler, taking him with her. We then see Feng, who has been behind sending goons after our boy. It appears Feng has already taken over Deputy Director Zhou, and Feng is planning to send some gifts to the deputy's home later. Well, we can tell that this gift is nothing but a bribe. Right at that moment, the lady officer quickly reports to her senior that firearms were found in the bar, and she suspects that they're involved in illegal activities, so she argues that they shouldn't let these criminals go. However, her pleas fall on deaf ears. The greedy deputy director sternly tells her not to speak without evidence, claiming that Mr. Feng is an honest businessman and the firearms found in the club belong to his bodyguards, who have proper licenses. Therefore, it's completely legal. He then points at Han, saying that the real target is the kid over there. This corrupt guy just laughs along with Mr. Feng as they place all the blame on our boy. The lady officer, however, once again argues that they should at least investigate further before letting these criminals go. The deputy director then starts flaunting his title as senior and reminds her place. He tells her to just follow the orders, and he quickly instructs the guards to arrest Han and put him in a cell. But my guy just stays calm and cool, advising the corrupt deputy director to reconsider before jumping to any conclusions he might later regret. He then pulls out his phone and sends a quick text, telling the receiver that he's at the police station and to come quickly. Seems like we'll have to wait and see who he messaged. Meanwhile, the fat deputy director cracks his fingers, eager to flaunt his title and take Han down, and the other officers seem ready to get involved. But just as things heat up, the lady officer steps in to protect Han. She tells the eager officers to back off, announcing that she's just received a notice from the Ministry of Public Security and is now in charge of the case. The deputy director tries to assert his authority again, but the lady officer quickly counters it, saying that she's received an official order from the Ministry of Public Security. She commands all officers to arrest Feng Tao immediately. The officers quickly decide to comply, but the deputy director, growing more frustrated and angry, declares that he won't be fooled by what he calls a baseless email. He announces he's stripping her of her captain rank. Just then, a commanding voice cuts through the tension, questioning how the deputy director dares to flaunt his authority. Enter Tang Haiban, accompanied by Yun Er and Baimo. Han's face lights up with relief and happiness at the sight of his friends, and they're equally glad to see him. Meanwhile, the crowd is losing their minds seeing so many high-ranking officials under one roof. Of course, the director and Feng are absolutely blown away because they know they're pretty much screwed. Tang Haiban, on the other hand, lets both of these idiots know that they are not going to get anywhere after bullying his brother's friend. The chubby guy keeps his crooked smile and tells them not to be ridiculous because they're handling it legally and would never tarnish an innocent person's name. That's when Baimo speaks up, calling out this fatty for trying to arrest his innocent brother instead of Feng Tao, who's apparently the leader of the underworld. Once again, the fatty uses the same excuse, telling Baimo not to speak without evidence, or he'll have to face legal consequences for slander. Tang Haiban then steps in and warns the deputy to be careful with his actions because everyone knows what he's been up to. The fatty insists he's an honest person and isn't afraid of lies. That is when Tang pulls out his phone, saying he can show evidence if needed. He quickly calls someone, and the caller picks up right away, saying he's at the door and has been waiting forever to expose the fatty's scandals. Right at that moment, the caller bursts into the room, and this man is known as Director Zhao, who makes it clear he has all the evidence. The fatty is completely stunned and asks the director what the heck he's doing there. Director Zhao promptly throws a huge stack of papers in the fatty's face and annoyingly tells him that the Ministry of Public Security has made his final decision. With the available proof, the fatty is accused of colluding with organized crime leaders and has been stripped of his position just like that. While the poor deputy is still reeling from his termination, Mr. Feng steps in and tells the fatty to take a good look at the papers, as they might just be bluffing. But that's when the deputy snaps. He begins yelling at Mr. Feng and starting to beat the crap out of him, blaming him for losing his position. Director Zhao facepalms and tells the officers to just arrest these clowns. Meanwhile, my guy is happy, saying this is what they get for messing with everyday citizens. Yuner and the others are a bit confused seeing our guy calling himself an ordinary citizen. Anyway, they all head to a restaurant, catch up, and clink their beer glasses, enjoying their time together. Han thanks everyone for their help, and Big Brother Tang says it's nothing. He reassures our boy that it's no big deal because ever since he heard about our boy, he himself wanted to meet him for a long time. Baimo then smirks and points out that Han should thank Sister Yuner, as she used her family name to help him out. That's why the order from the Ministry of Public Security came through so quickly. Han gets closer to her and claims that he doesn't need to thank her for the help since they're already in a relationship. But as expected, Yuner quickly pushes him away, letting him know they're not even close. Everyone laughs at their banter. They then decide to chug their drinks. After drinking heavily throughout the night, Han is still going strong, telling his friends to keep drinking. However, the other three have already passed out from too much drinking. Even Baimo couldn't help but comment on how Han can handle so much booze at once. Seems like ever since Han got his powers, his alcohol tolerance has really gone up. Anyway, they finally decide to head home. Han's carrying his fake girlfriend, while Baimo is dragging his brother home, and they all say their final goodbyes. As Han is walking down the street with his girlfriend, she starts feeling hot and pulls her shirt away from her chest. Han gets a peek and is absolutely blown away after seeing her assets. But before she could do anything major, he reminded her that they're still on the street. The girl then starts to puke, and after a hectic walk, they finally make it back to a hotel room. Once Han gets out of the bathroom, refreshed, he finds the girl already passed out. Han is smiling because despite everything, dragging her around wasn't so bad. She starts feeling hot again and yanks the blankets away, which gets Han's mind wandering to some wild thoughts. His inner devil is even jumping for joy, thinking he might finally lose his virginity. But then, she turns over, and her foot accidentally kicks him right between the legs. His nuts take a brutal hit, leaving him in excruciating pain as he collapses to the ground, apologizing to the gods for having those naughty thoughts. Suddenly, her phone rings, and Han's face goes pale as he wonders who could be calling at this hour. He takes a peek and sees it's Master Joe. He realizes the grandpa must be worried about Yuner, so he decides he needs to explain everything. When he picks up the call and introduces himself, the old man is relieved and happy to hear from Han. Master Joe eagerly says he's been wanting to meet him for a while. Han asks the old man why he wants to meet, and the old man says they'll talk about it when they meet in person. But seriously, the old man warns Han to stay away from any naughty business with his granddaughter. He asks where she is, and Han quickly says she's just sleeping. Well, this just makes the old man even more concerned, as he thinks she's vulnerable while she's asleep. Han tries to reassure the old man that he hasn't done anything to her, but the old man tells him he's not doubting him. Instead, he says Han needs to get his father's approval first. With that, the old man hangs up, leaving this shithead completely confused about what kind of approval he's talking about. The next morning, while the girl is still asleep in bed, Han has spent the night on the floor. Despite the rough sleeping arrangement, he seems to have had a good night while dreaming about all sorts of nasty stuff. When the girl hears him moaning and groaning in his sleep, she wakes up, and the first thing she does is let out a deafening scream. Her scream also wakes this pervert as well, who quickly asks her if she felt an earthquake or something. But the girl just slaps him across the face and covers herself up. After taking the hit, the poor guy asks the reason behind this stinging slap. The girl calls him a monster in response, and says he took advantage of her while she was drunk. And just thinking about this is forcing her to take her own life. Han tries to explain that he didn't touch her or do anything wrong. He only helped her get her dirty clothes off. But the girl remains unconvinced. She cries while pointing out that even if he didn't violate her, he definitely saw her naked. Han quickly tells her that he turned off the lights before taking off her clothes and swears he didn't grope her or do anything. She asks again if he's telling the truth, and Han insists he is, asking if she doesn't believe him. The girl then presses him one more time, asking if he really didn't touch her, peek at her, or have any dirty thoughts. Han, though not super confident about the dirty thoughts part, insists he's 100% sure about everything else. Despite all his explaining, the girl still gives him a solid slap, angrily reminding him that he just wasted a great opportunity. Han staggers back, hitting the wall from that brutal slap, and figures it's going to take him 2 lifetimes to understand women. She then quickly dials up her phone, and tells the caller to send some cloth over at the hotel, while this idiot thinks about making his hasty exit. As he tries to swing the door handle to open it up, but a sharp cleaver soon comes flying at him as the girl asks him at where he is trying to run away after seeing her body. Han staggers back and asks the girl what the heck she wants from him now. She says she doesn't have anything specific in mind, but she'll let him know when she thinks of something. She makes it clear he owes her big time for saving him from the police, so he's going to have to comply with her every command from now on. Han quickly agrees and tells her to call him whenever she needs him. With those final words, he leaves. Once he's gone, the girl smiles devilishly, and that is when we learn that all she wanted until now is to just take control over him. After getting out of the hotel, Han finally takes a moment to catch his breath. Suddenly a car honks, and there's Brother Tang again, cruising around in the city in his convertible G-Wagon. He then greets our boy and reminds him of last night. He mentions he's brought some 6-flavor Romania pills to help replenish Han's body, and even treat kidney deficiency. And of course, they're completely sugar-free. Han hops into the car and asks the fatty about Beimo. The man says Beimo went home to handle something, and since he himself was bored, he decided to hang out with our boy. Han then tells his friend that he wants to find his sister and get her to quit her job, so he requests his friend to just drive him to the company where she works. After a bit of driving, they pull up to a corporate building. Outside the main gate, 2 guards look pretty anxious. One of them tells the other that another politician is here for an inspection. They quickly greet their leaders, and Han waves back, thanking them for their hard work. We all know that Han is visiting his old company to make his sister quit her 9-to-5 job, and the guards are totally blown away to see him rolling up in the G-Wagon with a big shot like Tang. Han would have been fired by now if it weren't for his sister's request to the company. They park right in front of the building, and as Han and Tang stroll inside, every employee starts eyeing Han and bombarding him with questions. They're all asking where he's been, since Director Wang had already rejected his leave and decided to fire him. His sister's the only one trying to plead with the director. Han flashes a grin and tells them he's here to resign, so there's nothing to worry about. He then explains to Tang that ever since they were kids, he and his sister have been working at this factory and relying on each other to make a living. With that in mind, he warns Fatty not to blame him if he comes off as a bit arrogant. The Fatty responds by telling his friend that he has every right to be cocky because he's earned it through hard work. When they finally reach the manager's office, Han immediately senses something shady is going on inside. Once we peek inside, we see his sister's body is almost exposed, and she's trembling as she begs this creepy guy to stop. But the ugly scumbag keeps advancing on her, threatening that if she screams or tells anyone, both she and Han will get fired, and they'll end up living on the streets. Tears fill her eyes as she tells this disgusting man to stop, even going as far as to threaten to report him to the factory director. The filthy guy just makes it clear that the factory director is his brother-in-law, so it's useless to complain. He orders her to just give in and do as he says. That's when Han bursts into the room. With anger boiling over, he kicks the creep so hard that the guy's face smashes into the wall, and the wall itself gets demolished by the force of the hit. His sister freaks out as she asks why he kicked the manager and worries they'll get screwed. Han reassures her that he's actually there to resign and wants her to do the same. He's apparently made a lot of money and doesn't need to work hard anymore. The manager's face is a mess from the kick, and he points his finger at our hero, threatening to kill him. He rings a phone call to the guards and laughs maniacally as he tells our boy that he's done for. The sister tells her brother to run as fast as he can while she tries to distract the ugly guy. But Han reassures her he can handle it, so she doesn't have to worry. Brother Tang, standing by the gate, points out that even the famous Master Feng couldn't take on Han, so these common thugs don't stand a chance against him. The girl starts to wonder if her little brother has transformed from a beta male to a sigma male in just a few days. Meanwhile, a bunch of cocky thugs swarm the place, some wielding bats and others with spiky clubs. The leader of these thugs yells, demanding to know which brat is daring enough to challenge their boss. The manager quickly points his finger at Han, and each and every thug begins charging at our boy like a pack of hyenas. As the commotion kicks off inside, the employees outside the office room are freaking out about what's going on. One person figures that our guy must have ticked off the manager and is now getting pummeled by the manager's minions. Another employee feels bad for him and is ticked off at the old pervert of a manager. They complain that he's always harassing the women in the factory and that everyone's wanted to take him down for ages. They're worried about how our guy is going to handle all these thugs. But their worries turn out to be totally unfounded when they realize that the ones who just got beaten up were actually the manager's lackeys, and Han is just standing there like a total badass. Their jaws drop at the sight, and the sister is completely blown away by how badass her brother is. He casually explains that he has been training with a martial arts master and picked up some fancy moves along the way. Just as he's chatting with his sister, the perverted manager tries to make a quick escape. But his getaway is cut short when my guy punches the wall in front of him, demolishing it with a single blow. The manager is horrified, imagining what might have happened if that punch had landed on his face. Han looks like a literal devil, ready to take this guy down. As expected, the old creep gets down over his knees and starts begging for mercy, pleading for his life. Everyone lights up with happiness when they see the tyrannical manager Wang actually kneeling and begging. They cheer for our guy, celebrating his victory and the fact that he's put this jerk in his place. His sister then tells him to just let the bastard go. So our guy tells the jerk to scram, and the bald manager bolts out of there, running for his life. At that moment, the factory director shows up and demands to know what the hell is going on. Manager Wang, crying like a baby, approaches his brother-in-law and whines about being harassed. He begs him to sort things out. The director looks clearly annoyed by Wang's childish behavior, but he keeps his cool and asks who disrespected him. Of course, Wang points a finger directly at Han. That's when the sister steps up to save her brother. She makes it clear that this whole mess is her fault, not her brother's. The manager quickly tries to shift the blame, saying both of the kids are at fault, and demands the director put them in jail. That is when Brother Tang steps in, and he makes it clear that everyone knows the truth, so he does not have to hide it. Right at that moment, someone throws a smelly boot that lands squarely on the manager's ugly mug. The manager picks up the boot, sniffs it, and gets even more annoyed, asking who threw such a smelly thing. The workers are totally fed up with this jerk, and they all glare at him with deadly looks. Before long, everyone starts throwing anything they can find at him. The manager, once again, hides behind the director. The director also gets annoyed and asks his workers if they're looking to get fired. That's when our guy speaks up, reminding the director that Manager Wang has already lost all respect from the workers. He asks if the director is really trying to cover up for him. It turns out even the director knows what kind of scum his brother-in-law is, but he's stuck covering for Wang because his wife will give him a hard time if he doesn't. Manager Wang continues his pitiful pleading, begging his brother-in-law to intervene. With no choice, the director starts yelling at his crew. But before he can do much, the secretary arrives, looking completely worn out. The secretary informs them that the guards outside reported our guy arrived in a municipal committee car, and the fat guy with him seems to be the mayor's son. The director starts sweating as he realizes the gravity of the situation. While our duo is standing there, the director imagines Han and the mayor's son plotting to take down his entire factory, but in reality, they're just trying to decide on a restaurant. With no other choice, he finally decides to save himself first. While Manager Wang thinks his brother-in-law is going to cover for him, he gets a solid slap across the face from the director. The slap is so forceful that it spills blood from Wang's mouth. He collapses on the ground, pleading with his brother-in-law, but the director doesn't stop there. He continues to beat the crap out of him, furious about how Wang has damaged the company's reputation repeatedly. The onlookers are completely in awe to see such a rare sight, and they find it unbelievable that the director is pounding his own brother-in-law. They start to wonder if the director is actually afraid of our guy. Finally, the director stops once his brother-in-law loses consciousness. To wrap things up, he turns to Brother Tang and makes it clear that Manager Wang is fired and stripped of his position for ruining the company's reputation. The crowd goes wild with cheers, and the old man further asks if he's satisfied with the decision. Brother Tang says it's up to his brother Han to decide if he's okay with it. The director quickly catches on that the mayor's son just wants him to beg our guy for forgiveness. As the director hesitates, the mayor's son threatens him, revealing he has a video of manager Wang's antics on his phone. He warns the director about facing a disciplinary committee if the video of this harassment incident gets out. The bald manager starts sweating buckets, pleading with Tang to keep the video under wraps. He quickly falls to Han's feet, pleading that he had no idea about his brother-in-law's actions, and even offers the best positions in the factory to both our boy and his sister if they'll show him mercy. Everyone is shocked to see the factory director groveling like this. On the other hand, the sister tells her brother to let the guy go and says she's not angry anymore. The director breathes a sigh of relief, and before leaving, Han makes it clear that both he and his sister are done with the factory and will never come back. With that, they head out, and the trio zooms off in their car like it's no big deal. The director finally relaxes while the crew can't believe how Han went from zero to rich in no time. As they speed down the road, the sister points out that since they've resigned, they're going to need money. Han reassures her that there's nothing to worry about, because he recently sold a premium jade and made a significant amount. If she doesn't believe him, she can ask Brother Tang. The fatty quickly agrees, saying that the money Han earned is enough to take care of both of them for a lifetime. The girl then asks how much he sold the jade for, to which Han casually replies, "Not much, just a few million." The sister is absolutely boggled to hear this, and she grabs her brother and shakes him, demanding to know if he's telling the truth. The poor guy pleads with her not to choke him to death. Once they're strolling down the street, they make their way into the shopping mall. A while later, we can see the sister in some new fancy clothes. That is when our boy reminds her that she's always been buying him new things for years. So it's finally time for him to return the favor and treat her to something special. They spot some stylish shoes, and while the sister stresses about the high prices, the fatty assures her that the cost is just pocket change for Han. Our boy also agrees and encourages his sister to go ahead and splurge. He even pushes her inside one of the shops, and once she's inside, she reluctantly begins to walk around in order to find some clothes. A few moments later, we find her in a new dress, and she asks her brother for his opinion. The boy reminds her that she looks good in anything. At the same time, the fatty starts drooling over the sister, saying she looks really pretty. He even asks our boy what he thinks about having him as a brother-in-law. Han makes it clear that it's his sister's choice, and that he'll be happy with whoever she decides to be with. The fatty then looks at his own protruding belly, then back at her, and finally says he doesn't deserve her because she's so much more beautiful in comparison. But our boy tells him he should have a little confidence in himself. While they're shopping, a cocky voice calls them out. It turns out to be Bai Luofei, the same guy who harassed Yuner in earlier chapters. When our boy spots him, he immediately remembers his name and asks how he dares to show up in front of him. Bai Luofei starts hiding behind his girlfriend like a pussy and says there are police patrolling the mall. He's sure our boy wouldn't want to attract their attention. This annoys our boy because he really doesn't want to get tangled with the law again. He decides to stay rational, but then the fatty chimes in, asking if our boy wants him to make this thug scram. Han reassures his friend, telling him it's alright and that he wants to see what this jerk is up to. Bai Luofei gets even more arrogant, telling Han to step aside, claiming that he's here to check out the shop and directly accuses our boy of trying to hinder the business by not letting the customers inside. Han makes it clear that he's here to buy clothes too, so if Bai Luofei wants to get inside, he'll have to go around him. Bai Luofei starts laughing, mocking him and asking if someone like him could even afford the clothes here. Both he and his girlfriend laugh their heads off, while Brother Tang and Han feel utterly creeped out by this self-absorbed jerk. Right at that moment, Han's sister steps out of the dressing room in a new dress, carrying multiple shopping bags. It's clear she's had a blast shopping. Everyone is captivated by Han's sister's beauty, even Bai Luofei, who can't help but ogle her despite already having a girlfriend. His girlfriend asks him what's so special about her and insists that she herself is much prettier. Bai Luofei reluctantly agrees, but his frustration is palpable. He grits his teeth, thinking that Han's sister will soon be one of his playthings. Han then calls out to the shopkeeper and asks for the bill. The shopkeeper rushes over, announcing that the total is around 300,000 yuan. Bai Luofei remains nonchalant, convinced that Han, whom he sees as a broke guy, won't be able to cover that amount. But as soon as the card is swiped, the payment goes through without a hitch. The trashy couple's jaws drop in disbelief as they see Han actually pay for it. On the other hand, the siblings are having the time of their lives and look more like a couple than ever. Bai Luofei's girlfriend spots a diamond necklace nearby and excitedly points it out, asking him to buy it for her. The guy snaps his fingers and agrees to fulfill her command. Of course, his girlfriend jumps for joy, saying he's the best and that he loves her so much. Bai Luofei just acts all rich and nonchalant, saying that a few clothes are nothing, and he could easily buy her a diamond necklace as well. Well, it looks like Han also appears to be interested in the necklace. The shopkeeper promptly arrives and announces that the diamond necklace costs around 1.5 million yuan. Bai Luofei's jaw drops once he hears the price. And on the other hand, his girlfriend keeps urging him to just pay for it. But the guy isn't thrilled about spending that much money on someone he's only known for one night. He's not sure he wants to spend so much on someone he considers a gold digger. Eventually, he turns her attention towards a particular doll and tells her that it suits her better. When they check out the doll, it starts shouting some nonsensical fairy tale stuff. His girlfriend gets absolutely furious, asking if he thinks of her as a 3-year-old. She makes it clear that she doesn't care about the doll and demands him to buy her that diamond necklace. The shopkeeper then also starts asking her boyfriend to pay the money if they want to take the necklace. That's when the wannabe rich guy loses his temper, and he lashes out at his gold digger girlfriend. He calls her every name under the sun and makes it clear that he won't spend a single penny on someone like her. Han kicks the loudmouthed couple out of the shop and swipes his card again to pay for the diamond necklace. Bai Luofei is left flabbergasted once again, and he is struggling to comprehend how Han could be so rich. Meanwhile, his gold digger girlfriend starts thinking about how to charm Han. On the other hand, our boy then put the necklace around his sister's neck. While she tells him he shouldn't have spent so much money, he points out that the necklace looks great on her, and she deserves it. Bai Luofei gets infuriated by his defeat, and decides to take revenge for this humiliation some other day. For now, he storms out of the store, but just as he's about to leave, he receives a nut-cracking kick right over his nuts by his own girl. His gold digger girlfriend immediately cozies up to Han, telling him to just buy her diamond necklaces, and she will be his for an entire night. That is when the sister bursts into the scene and punches the gold digger so hard that she flies away. There's a fierce glint in her eyes, and Brother Tang is now certain that she's indeed Han's sister, given her incredible strength. Later, back at home, Han reflects on how he learned Kung Fu from Zhao Hengtian. So as a reward, he finally decides it's time to fulfill his promise to help heal Zhao's legs. Han uses his skills, and a shadowy figure appears to give him a tutorial on how to patch up Zhao's legs. After learning the necessary medical techniques, he's relieved and pleased to have acquired the knowledge to treat those injured legs. Meanwhile, his sister quietly watches him as she stands over the door. It is the moment when she recalls her father's dying wish. Apparently, before her father died, he had told her that she was not Han's biological sister and asked her to take good care of him. Well, that's quite a plot twist, I guess. I'm not sure how this manhwa will turn out, but let's just keep going and see. As she looks at him, she notices how much he's grown up and feels it's finally time to fulfill the promise she made to her father. The next day, as our boy stretches and wakes up, he reveals to us that after just one night, he's mastered both techniques from the Ghost Valley medical classics. Meanwhile, his sister is getting out of her room, looking completely sleep-deprived and still preoccupied with her thoughts from the night before. Seeing his sister, he quickly wishes her good morning, which startles her completely. She ducks back into her room and slams the door behind her. He has no idea why she's acting like this, and wonders if he's that scary. Deciding to ignore it, he heads off to heal Zhao's legs, while his sister watches him go in silence. When he arrives at Zhao Hengtian's house, they head out to the courtyard. Our boy quickly asks if Zhao is ready, and the wheelchair guy responds with equal enthusiasm. With that, Han prepares 3 needles in his hand, looking like he's the next Wolverine, while the wheelchair guy braces himself for what's coming. Well, it turns out all that dramatic buildup was for nothing because the two of them are just having a barbecue party. Meanwhile, the gambler girl in the background is absolutely furious to see that the guy came here to heal her brother's leg, but is now just eating grilled chicken instead. She gives them both a solid bonk on the head and snatches the barbecue tray from them. With the distractions out of the way, the two idiots finally get back to business. Zhao finally asks our boy if he's ready to cure his legs. Han assures him that he's ready and has already found a way to heal them. The girl lights up with happiness, while her brother is still in shock, wondering if he is being serious. Han confirms it once more, stating that he'll apply the needles thoroughly and nothing should go wrong. Using his supernatural eyes, he notices that Zhao's legs have been left untreated for so long that the blood vessels are blocked. If he's not careful, he might cause more damage, which could lead to permanent disability. A heavy silence falls over them once our boy deploys this bombshell of news to them. The sister then recommends her brother to just look for another solution, mentioning that she heard a foreign expert arrived in Shenzhen yesterday. But Zhao simply says no, explaining that if there were another way, he wouldn't have waited until now. He shares that 3 years ago, he fell victim to an opponent's trap, which left his legs crippled and caused the tragic deaths of his countless brothers who followed him. Now he can only hide away, teetering on the edge of death. The girl begins to cry, asking if they'll ever be able to live a peaceful life. Meanwhile, Han reflects on how this man, once a formidable figure from the southwest, has been reduced to a crippled shell of his former self. Zhao then snaps at his sister and makes it clear that he won't stop fighting. He's waited 3 years just to get his legs healed, and he's determined to reclaim what he's lost. He wants to show his fallen comrades that he'll take back what was taken from him. It seems like the spirits always haunting Zhao are likely the souls of those who died in that battle. That's when Han confidently declares that he's going to do his best to cure Zhao's legs. The gambler girl bows her head in respect, saying she's counting on him. Zhao then says that even if the treatment doesn't work, he'll accept his fate and won't blame Han. The dejected girl then finally perks up in happiness, and she has started to feel confident for some reason. With that, Han prepares to use all the needles and equipment he brought for the treatment. The gambler girl quickly rolls up Zhao's pants to expose his legs, ready for the procedure. Han, on the other hand, picks up the 3 golden needles and explains that he'll use them to push the thickened blood out of Zhao's calves and then mend his hamstrings. He warns that it might hurt a little, so he will have to endure it. The wheelchair guy is ready to face whatever lies ahead and simply tells him to just get started. As our boy begins the procedure, an arcane aura starts to radiate around his hands. Once his powers are completely activated, Han quickly thrusts the needles into Zhao's legs, and they begin their work immediately. A little later, Han finishes the procedure, and Zhao lights up with tears of joy as he delivers the great news that he can feel his legs again, even if just a little numb. Han explains that this was just the first step, and now he's going to work on mending Zhao's hamstrings. Well, this time both of the siblings have no doubt about our boy's abilities, and they both give him the green light to start the next procedure. Han thrusts the needles into Zhao's feet again, and a yellow energy shimmers brightly. That is when Zhao notices this insane power overflowing inside our boy, which leaves him awestruck for a moment. Once Han has a complete map of the leg in his head, he precisely delivers a blow to the knee. Both siblings watch in awe as the leg starts to move. With the procedure complete, Han collapses, catching his breath as he's utterly exhausted. Han then tells his friend to try standing up, and miraculously, Zhao is finally able to stand after 3 long, excruciating years. He bursts into happiness, thrilled to be back on his feet. Han then goes as far as to claim that in just 3 days, Zhao will be running like a horse and jumping like a rabbit. Zhao, on the other hand, has no clue how to even express his gratitude to our boy. He says he's got no words to thank Han enough, and the only thing he's got to offer is his life, and he's more than happy to give it up for our boy. Han laughs it off and reminds him it's not that serious. He also reminds him that they had a deal, and now that they're friends, he doesn't need to go overboard. Jay remembers his promise and hands over a secret book of 1,000 arts and a dagger, hoping Han will dig it. Our boy promptly takes the book with a smile and thanks his friend back. A while later, we see Han with his sister, showing her the grand villa he just bought. She's absolutely thrilled to see it but feels a bit embarrassed, knowing she'll have to depend on him for everything from now on. Han reassures her, telling her not to worry and to leave everything to him. He then decides to head out, wanting to meet Baimo and Brother Tang. But just as he's leaving, he accidentally bumps into a girl walking down the street, and they both tumble to the ground from the impact. Wait, this girl looks familiar. Yep, she's the officer lady we met earlier. Han awkwardly waves at the girl and comments that he didn't expect her to live in this area too. He then notices something stuck on his head, and he's been soon slapped by the detective for acting like a pervert. Han tries to argue that she was the one who bumped into him, but the detective isn't having any of it. She quickly swings her leg at him, but Han sidesteps the attack and warns her that if she keeps this up, she might find herself in trouble. The lady simply tells him to bring it on, saying she's not afraid and will fight him to the end. As they're in the middle of their scuffle, 2 cars pull up in front of Han's mansion. It's his friends, whom he was planning to meet. When they enter the mansion, they see Han and the detective battling it out and have no idea what's going on or why they're fighting. Eventually, the girl picks up her bra and panties, and while still fuming, tells Han he should consider himself lucky because she's letting him go this time. Brother Tang points out that the girl is the same grumpy woman from the Yan family and warns that she's a pretty big deal. So big, in fact, that even he wouldn't want to offend her. He is curious to know how our boy ended up messing with her. Han just shrugs and says it's a long story for another day. Once everyone settles into the mansion, his sister brings tea for everyone. The old man, in his usual cheeky style, teases his granddaughter about how she's more than ready to marry our boy. Feeling a bit awkward, Han quickly clarifies that there's nothing going on between them, and offers to have Baimo and Brother Tang back him up on that. Both Baimo and Brother Tang stay quiet on the topic, and they quickly shift the conversation to how beautifully the house is decorated. The old man decides to drop the teasing and pulls out a jade, saying he came for 2 reasons. First, to congratulate our boy on his new home, and to give him the jade as a housewarming gift. Han graciously accepts the gift, and Baimo then asks the old man about the other reason for his visit. That's when the old man reveals he wants Han to become his disciple and asks if he's willing. Everyone is shocked to hear that this old coot is actually offering discipleship to Han. Honestly, I'm not surprised and kind of want to laugh. Remember back in an earlier chapter when the old man couldn't even tell if a vase was real or fake, but Han proved it just by brushing off the dirt? Seems like the old man should be the one asking to be Han's disciple. The girl asks if the old man is serious and he confirms it. He explains that Han's ability to appraise the best jades shows he has talent, and since the old man wants a successor, Han is the perfect choice. Besides, if he marries Yun'er, their relationship will become even more solid. The girl is once again embarrassed by the old man's bluntness. Our boy then starts thinking regarding the offer and realizes that even though he has supernatural eyes, they still can't provide the knowledge and experience this old coot has. Since there is nothing to lose, he decides to accept the offer. So, he quickly bows down and asks the old man to accept him as his disciple. But the old man stops him, saying he doesn't need to bow like that, and that he can't become his disciple just yet. He still needs to pass a test. Han is confused, wondering what in the hell he is talking about. The old man explains that there will be a jade gambling festival in Yunnan province on the 15th of next month. He tells him to go with Yun'er and build his reputation there. Han quickly stands up and respectfully tells the old man to wait, promising that he won't disappoint with the results. Just then, Zhao and his gambler sister burst into the mansion, and the first thing they do is tease Han about getting quite rich. Han points out Zhao's progress, noting that he's already started walking again. The guy then humbly pays his gratitude to our boy, saying it's all thanks to him. He then presents our boy with a box, explaining that it's not a housewarming gift but a special token of appreciation. When they open the box, they find a dagger inside. Apparently, it's not an ordinary dagger. It's known as the dragon scale dagger. The old man's jaw drops when he sees the dagger, recognizing it as an exceptionally sharp weapon rumored to have been forged by Ujizi and known as a national treasure. Zhao, on the other hand, is quite impressed by how knowledgeable the old man is. That is when the old coot mentions that Zhao seems really familiar, and he curiously asks who he actually is, because he has a hunch that he has seen him before. Well, the realization finally hits the old man like a thunderbolt out of the blue when he remembers that this guy is actually Southwest King, who had disappeared for 3 years. The others in the room are also shocked to hear this, as they've also heard so much about him. Zhao himself just brushes off the flattery, saying it's just a nickname and nothing worth mentioning. Yun'er then explains that she's heard rumors about Zhao being trapped by an opponent's dirty scheme and becoming disabled. The king confirms this, saying that the only reason he's able to stand now is thanks to Han. From now on, if anyone offends Han, it's the same as offending the Southwest King. Everyone is once again stunned by how Han has such a mysterious and strong connection with the Southwest King. Even the old man is blown away, seeing how famous Han is despite being just a regular kid. As they all settle in and catch up, Baimo gets a phone call. The caller says someone they've been waiting for has arrived, so Baimo needs to head to the airport to pick him up. Baimo then turns to our boy and mentions that his family has already hired a disciple of the Northwest King of Medicine, who will arrive tomorrow. This means our boy might not get a chance to treat his father. Han reassures Baimo not to worry, and states that he will still be going to visit his father, and he is going to see this visit as a chance to welcome a guest and also to pay his respects to the Northwest King of Medicine's disciple. Brother Tang also decides to tag along, and Baimo is glad to have him come as well. The scene transitions to the next day, at the Lin family's villa. Inside, the place is bustling with people discussing the arrival of Shen Tianao, an outstanding disciple of the Northwest King of Medicine. We then also see Han dressed in a suit. Upon seeing the huge crowd of people, he curiously asks Brother Tang why there are so many people. Brother Tang explains that wealthy people tend to be very cautious about their health. Everyone is eager to meet the disciple, hoping to secure his help in the future. Han suddenly notices some familiar faces among the guests, and this familiar face actually belongs to Bai Luofei, and he is tagging along with his father, Bai Jianjie. Right at that moment, a waiter bursts into the room, announcing that the disciple of the Northwest King of Medicine has arrived. Soon enough, the disciple, who goes by the name Mr. Shen, makes a grand entrance, escorted by Baimo, who is carrying the disciple's belongings. Everyone is crowding around the disciple, giving him all the respect he's due. Meanwhile, Han and Brother Tang are clearly ticked off, watching this arrogant disciple make Baimo carry his stuff like a personal servant. The disciple thanks everyone for the warm welcome, and he claims that he already knows why they're all gathered, but he makes it clear that the path to medicine is only for those who can afford it. Our boy finds this guy's attitude pretty off-putting, while others are practically fawning over him, offering whatever they can just to stay in his good books. Bai spots Han in the crowd and immediately thinks about getting some revenge. Our boy, on the other hand, notices Bai and can tell he's definitely up to something shady. Bai raises his voice and points out that even though the Lin family hired this high-profile disciple to cure Master Lin's illness, he has heard that they have also brought an unknown doctor as well. This suggests they don't fully trust this celebrated disciple of the Northwest King of Medicine. Everyone is shocked by the news, and they all start wondering who this mysterious other person might be. On the other hand, Han is seriously annoyed by Bai Luofei's trickery, and he has a good idea of what this jerk is trying to pull. Bai Luofei's father also chimes in, saying that no one can compare to Shen, and that there's a chance the unknown person might just be using superficial medical knowledge to deceive those around him. The crowd gets irritated at the comparison of the prestigious Mr. Shen to some random guy. Meanwhile, our boy can barely contain his anger, shaking with frustration, but he's holding back because he doesn't want to ruin the day. But despite his attempts to stay out of the spotlight, his chubby friend gets fed up with the crowd and makes it clear that our boy has the best medical skills ever, and he won't tolerate a bunch of idiots talking nonsense about his brother. The crowd quickly recognizes the chubby guy as Tang, and they all know about his background, which leads them to start trash-talking him. This only fuels Tang's anger, and he's practically burning with fury, while our boy tries his best to calm his friend down. Eventually, Tang's frustration gets the better of him, and he explodes over these guests who were trash-talking him. Mr. Bai then turns to Baimo, asking for his opinion on the matter, and suggests that they should just kick Tang and his so-called medical expert friend out. Baimo finds himself in a tough spot, because he is friends with these guys and can't just toss them out like that. The crowd starts shouting at our boy and his friend, unable to tolerate anyone insulting Mr. Shen. Everyone decides to kick the two of them out. Meanwhile, the scummy father and his scummy son are grinning from ear to ear. They are having the time of their life seeing our boy getting humiliated. That's when Baimo finally gives his verdict. Instead of kicking his friends out, he bluntly offers every guest the option to leave if they're so eager to do so, since they were never actually invited in the first place. With that, everyone decides to head out, mainly because they can't afford to offend the Lin family. On the other hand, the shady disciple is worried to see all the guests leaving because he still needs to swindle them out of their money. He quickly claps his hands to grab everyone's attention and smoothly tells them that nobody needs to leave and there's no need to fight over someone insignificant. A good doctor, he says, needs both integrity and talent, and those without them aren't worth mentioning. The crowd goes wild once again, quickly agreeing with Mr. Shen and deciding to ignore the so-called worthless kid. This only makes Tang even more furious. He confronts the greedy disciple, questioning how he can claim his friend lacks integrity or talent. He is so enraged that he throws his shoe right at the disciple's face and tells him to get the hell out for bad-mouthing his friend. Everyone is absolutely going bonkers when they see the audacity of this guy throwing a shoe at Shen. The doctor himself is also quite furious after taking such a humiliating hit over his face. On the other hand, Tang is laughing his head off after slapping his shoes onto the bastard's face. He jokes that the shoe imprints suit him well. Shen tells this chubster to kneel before him and beg for forgiveness. But Tang just waves his tongue at him, further aggravating the situation. The greedy guy then tries to threaten Baimo, saying that if this isn't resolved today, he'll leave immediately, and Kim family can gladly take their master to some other doctor. With no other choice, Baimo apologizes on behalf of his friend. But our boy tells him to stop apologizing to this filthy man and promises to treat the father's illness himself if necessary. Everyone bursts into laughter when they realize that this is the brat who's self-proclaimed as a doctor. Even the disciple gets cocky, sneering at our boy's remark and questioning how a kid like him could treat someone. He then breaks into laughter, saying that if our boy can cure old Master Lin with his skills, he promises to stop practicing medicine and withdraw from the medical field forever. Our boy confidently asks if he'll stick to his word. The doctor feels quite annoyed by his confidence, but quickly assures that he definitely will. In response, our boy throws a sassy remark, saying he'll enjoy removing a black sheep from the medical field. As usual, the people around start making fun of him, and they are sure that he's going to get screwed. Bai Luofei also does not waste this opportunity to belittle our boy, and tells him to get ready to eat shit once he faces his miserable defeat. That's when Tang gives this bastard a deadly glare, and this single intense look is enough to scare Bai, who quickly hides behind his father like a coward. Meanwhile, Shen accepts our boy's challenge, telling him that if he loses, he'll have to crawl on his hands and knees in front of everyone. Baimo turns to our boy, asking if he's sure about this. He warns that losing could mean facing humiliation, but my guy is already resolute in his stance, and assures his friend that there's no illness he cannot cure. After seeing such confidence, Baimo finally decides to put a little faith in his friend. It seems like even Baimo had always hated Dr. Shen, and he already wants to take his revenge on this guy for making him carry his stuff like a loyal servant. On top of that, Shen is demanding 10% of his family's shares as payment for his services. His chubster friend then tries to calm him down, because he's sure Han will teach this guy the lesson he deserves. He then turns to the wannabe doctor and warns him that he's about to witness some serious skills, so he better be prepared to get screwed. With that, they finally decide to start the challenge. Baimo tells everyone to head inside because he wants everyone to witness what's about to go down. Everyone follows Shen toward their next stop, eagerly waiting to see how he's going to blow everyone away with his so-called godly skills. Tang gets annoyed hearing them badmouth Han again, but our boy tells him to relax because they'll find out soon enough who's really in charge here. Everyone finally enters Master Lin's room, and they immediately start losing their minds when they see how horrendous Master Lin looks in his current state. One guy in the crowd reveals that Master Lin has been like this for quite a while. Every night at midnight, he screams and shouts as if he's seen a ghost, and nobody has been able to figure out what's eating away at his soul. Even the most skilled doctors couldn't determine what's wrong. That is when our boy uses his supernatural eyes and takes a good look at the old man's insides and realizes there's nothing particularly wrong with Master Lin's physical body. But finally, he uncovers the real cause of illness when he notices a terrifying spirit haunting him. The sight of these ghosts freaks him out so much that he falls to the ground, shouting about seeing a ghost. The guests immediately start laughing at him for getting scared of his own patient. To them, it's hilarious that this is the first doctor they've seen who's terrified of the very person he's supposed to heal. Not surprisingly, Bai doesn't waste the chance to slander our boy. He sneers and asks if he really thinks he can still compete with such a prestigious doctor. Shen then also enters the chat and throws jabs of his own, saying how young people nowadays think they know everything when all they've got is superficial knowledge. He reminds our boy that there's always someone better out there, and he's yet to learn that lesson. On the other hand, Han's friends help him get back on his feet. While Fatty asks why he is so scared, Baimo reminds him that his father does not look that scary at all. Our boy takes another look at the patient and notices that the spirit has disappeared again. He starts piecing things together, remembering that yin is tied to the left eye and yang to the right. The yang eye sees through matter, while the yin eye perceives the invisible and the nether. With that in mind, he decides to try using his yin eye and quickly spots the evil spirit haunting the big boss. That's when Bai shoves our boy aside, telling him to get lost if he can't figure out the illness and to stop getting in the way. While this shit-ass is showing utter disrespect toward our boy, he treats Dr. Shen as though he's some sort of god descended from the heavens. Fatty is absolutely about to blow his top, having had enough of Bai's arrogance and itching to beat the crap out of him. Our boy quickly tells Fatty to stay calm, assuring him that he's the only one who can cure old Master Lin's illness. Baimo's face lights up with happiness, and he asks if this is really true. Our boy quickly confirms, saying he'll get ready and begin treatment shortly. Han then closes his eyes and conjures up a spirit of his own. Meanwhile, Bai anxiously keeps glancing at our boy while asking the doctor if he's found the cause of the illness. The doctor maintains his fake confidence and outwardly says he has found the cause. However, inwardly, he's losing his mind, frustrated because he can't see any symptoms of illness at all. That's when our boy steps in and asks the doctor if he has found the cause of Master Lin's illness. This wannabe doctor starts lying through his teeth, claiming that Master Lin's body is simply too weak, constantly under stress, and has deteriorated over time to this state. Baimo calls this a load of bullcrap, pointing out that if it were that simple, they would have already cured it. Our boy agrees, adding that it definitely isn't as straightforward as Dr. Shen is making it seem. Han loudly states that what Shen said is absolute rubbish because Master Lin's condition is not just a matter of weakness. The doctor tries to defend himself, countering by asking Han why Master Lin's body has turned out this way. Looks like even Baimo is dying to know what exactly is wrong, and why Father's condition has become so severe. Han tells them to be patient, stating that he will treat Master Lin first before explaining anything further. With that much cleared up, Han starts walking toward the Master Lin's bed. Before starting the treatment, he asks the doctor for the last time if he's given up, or if he still believes he can cure the Master. The doctor hesitates, unsure what to say, so Han just tells him to watch and learn how things are done. He places his hand over the Master's head, commands the souls to die, and with a flash of his powers, he strikes the spirit, ordering it to just get screwed. And just like that, the spirit is finally out of the way. His friends are left with their jaws dropped, quickly asking if he's done with the procedure. Han confirms he is, while his chubby friend complains that he wanted to record everything, but it all ended before it even started. That's when the greedy doctor takes his chance and starts mocking Han for his so-called pathetic attempt. He sneers, saying that since Master Lin is still on the bed unconscious, how can Han claim to have cured him? The others also join the scene to make sure to don't lose the chance to mock our hero, laughing and calling him all sorts of names, making him out to be scum. But their laughter dies abruptly when they see the old master start to speak. His son quickly rushes to his father. Tears stream down his face as he hugs his father and asks how he's feeling. The old man asks if the thing that had been haunting him is finally gone. The son looks around confusingly and asks what he's talking about. That's when Han steps in and reassures the old man, saying not to worry because the ghost has been dealt with, and nothing will bother him anymore. The old man's face lights up with a smile. He grabs Han's hands and says he's a true genius and that he owes Han his life. Once everyone gets a reality check, they realize Han is the real deal. Compared to our boy, the Northwest King of Medicine's outstanding disciple seems like a joke. The crowd quickly turns their anger towards Scumbag Bai, who was the one who suggested kicking Han out. They start beating the crap out of him while he groans and cries for his father's help. But while Scumbag Bai can be called bad, his father is even worse. The old man quickly decides to make a run for it, hoping nobody will notice. Just as he sneaks away, his scummy son shouts out that his father is running away and was also behind the plan to kick Han out. The crowd stops attacking Bai and focuses their fury on his father, who now knows he's in deep trouble. They eventually end up chasing down that scummy father, while his son is left on the ground, pathetically crying after getting stomped by the furious mob. Han couldn't help but crack a smile, thinking this is exactly what that scumbag deserved for plotting against him. Meanwhile, the pathetic disciple is in utter disbelief, refusing to accept what just happened. He keeps insisting he didn't even know the cause of the illness, so how could Han possibly cure it? Since this disciple is really itching to know the cause of the illness, Han finally decides to show this curious cat everything. As he gets close, Han unleashes his powers and reveals glimpses of the ghost he's been hiding. The wannabe doctor freaks out and bolts for his life like a frightened dog. Meanwhile, Han's friends curiously ask what exactly he did that made the greedy doctor wet his pants. The son then turns to his father and asks him about what exactly was the reason behind his illness. The old man finally decides to spill the beans but requests all of the guests to leave first. Everyone quickly exits the room, and once they're alone, the old man brings up the family secret, which includes that their ancestors built their fortune through tomb raiding. His son acknowledges this but still isn't clear on how it's related to his illness. Meanwhile, Brother Tang is pretty impressed by Baimo's cool family background, but Baimo shrugs it off, saying it's common knowledge and that they stopped tomb raiding ages ago. His father adds that a few months ago, while sorting through some old relics, he accidentally broke a vase. Ever since then, he's been suffering from this chronic illness. He admits that without Han's help, he's sure he would have kicked the bucket by now. Baimo places his hand on Han's shoulder out of happiness. He's glad his father was saved and isn't sure how he's going to repay him for this. Suddenly, a guy bursts into the room. The man looks utterly exhausted as he frantically reports that there's a huge crowd outside asking for the genius doctor. Han quickly asks if they're looking for him, and sure enough, all the big shots from rich families come pouring in. They're flaunting their impressive backgrounds, trying to get Han on their team. The mob is so desperate to meet our boy that they start brawling among themselves. The scene then suddenly transitions to another location, where we see this officer lady. She asks her senior about the handsome guy on the screen and wonders if he's their next target. The senior starts sweating as he reluctantly admits that he is, but he lets her know that the mission has already been taken over. Well, by the looks of his face, it's obvious he doesn't want her to handle this mission, because he is afraid that she might mess things up even more. By the way, her name is Huo Feng. The senior quickly turns to the staff and asks who took over the mission. Everyone scratches their heads, admitting they didn't take it on and can't even remember who did. Well, I can literally tell that they are lying, as they are just scared of this lady. That's when she takes her chance and starts yelling at everyone, demanding to know who's handling the mission. Her fury makes everyone start to crack, and one of them quickly hands over all the paperwork related to the case. She demands again to know who's in charge, and as expected, they all point to her. With a satisfied twinkle in her eye, she happily walks out. Meanwhile, the other officers can't help but feel sorry for the guy she's about to catch. And as fate would have it, that guy is Han. Even the senior is sure the kid is as good as screwed, because nobody escapes her grasp. A few days later, we find Han saying his final goodbye to his friend Zhao before parting ways. Once he begins walking his path, he feels his phone vibrating in his back pocket. He checks it and sees that his sister is calling. He picks up the call while expecting to hear her sister's pleasant greetings, but he finds himself shocked when a creepy guy answers instead. The man greets Han with a sinister tone, calling him a genius. It doesn't take Han long to realize something shady is going down, and he immediately shouts at the guy. The man laughs and reminds our boy how he managed to escape last time, but this time, he's not letting him get away. Before ending the call, he threatens our boy that he only has 1 hour to come to an abandoned building in the southern suburbs alone, or his beautiful sister will be in trouble with an entire gang. Han's blood boils at the threat, and he's determined to tear this guy apart and feed him to the dogs if anything happens to his sister. The scene cuts to the abandoned building, where Han's sister is tied up to a chair, demanding that someone let her go. The creepy guy tells her not to worry, as her brother will be here soon, and then she'll be able to reunite with him. Han arrives at the abandoned place and starts calling out for his sister. When she hears him, she quickly responds, letting him know she's there. Finally, Han comes face to face with the creep. He quickly demands that this jerk leave his sister out of it and let her go. The guy, with his outdated hairstyle, threatens that if our boy so much as moves, he'll blow his sister to smithereens. Han gets furious and asks this creep why he had to drag his sister into this mess. The disgusting guy licks his lips and says he'll let her go, but first, he wants to play a game with Han. Our boy promises to play along, but only if the creepy guy leaves his sister alone. The creep just laughs and tells Han to run, but my guy stands firm, not moving an inch as long as his sister is in danger. He also grips a dagger in his hands he got as a gift from his friend Zhao, ready for action. But before anything significant happens, that same woman, Huo Feng, interrupts the tense scene, asking if she should prepare some popcorn and soda for the show. The creepy guy quickly points his gun at her, warning that she shouldn't be there, and if she doesn't leave, he'll put a hole in her chest. Huo Feng gets annoyed by this hollow threat and quickly leaps from her perch. As she descends, the guy starts firing, but none of the bullets hit or let alone gaze at her. Once she is done with her badass landing, she throws a sassy line at him, telling him that he has a major skill issue. Both Han and the creepy guy are completely stunned, trying to wrap their heads around how this woman could dodge such high-speed bullets like that. The creep just gets even more desperate, throws his gun away and threatens to detonate the bomb, saying everyone will blow up into smithereens if she doesn't stop. The woman remains unfazed by his threats and prepares to take action. But before she can do anything, Han throws the enchanted dagger at the creep. The energy-infused dagger slices through the air, blowing the creep's hand off and causing the bomb remote to fall to the ground. After losing the fingers of his left hand, all this bastard could do is groan in pain like a dog. The lady gives our boy props for his impressive dagger skills. She then also leaps into the air to make sure to show her impressive skills as well, and delivers a high-heeled kick under the creep's chin. His jaw literally cracks and he's sent flying. Once the creep is down for the count, the woman casually brushes her hands off. Han rushes over to his sister, who's still tied up. He asks if she's okay, and she reassures him that she is, and further tells him to thank the lady for her help. Han turns to the woman to express his gratitude, but she looks annoyed as she checks the creep's clothes and finds nothing valuable to take. Han is completely confused about what's up with this lady. At that moment, she stands up and mentions that she hasn't found a place to stay, so she asks if he would let her crash into his place. Han is more confused than ever, and before he can say much, she taps him on the shoulder and declares that she's decided to stay at his place. Han quickly gets agitated to see this shady woman forcefully trying to break into his house even though he did not even give her any permission. His sister then tries to calm him down, telling him to chill out. It's not a big deal to let the woman stay over for a few nights, especially since she saved her life. Huo Feng then reminds the both of them that it's getting dark, so they better lead the way to the house. When they finally get back home, we see Han looking really curious about this mysterious lady. And what's even weirder is how suspiciously skilled she is. He then sneaks out of his bedroom window with some smooth ninja moves and quietly makes his way down to the balcony of the first floor. He's hoping to get a peek at her, but when he looks inside, she's nowhere to be seen. She's apparently in the bathroom, enjoying a bubbly bath. While she's taking her bath, she notices that this dumb head has already come to snoop around. She raises her leg, giving him a good look at her butterfly, making sure he gets an eyeful. After giving him a clear view, she simply walks around her bedroom, pretending not to have noticed him hanging around the window. On the other hand, our pervy idiot is bleeding from his nose after catching a glimpse of her thing between her legs. Just as he's about to leave, the girl intentionally mentions something about her mission being way too easy. Of course, this piques his curiosity, and he starts wondering if his hunch about her might actually be true. But before he can think any further, she gives him the jump scare of his life, and he falls off the balcony, landing right on his butt. She asks if he's okay, to which he awkwardly responds that he's fine, claiming he was just practicing. He then points at her and asks who she really is. The lady, sure that he's an idiot, decides to have a little fun with him first. She quickly kicks him and declares she's here to kill him. He staggers back due to the impact and asks why she's picking a fight with him, saying he doesn't remember crossing paths with her before. The girl just acts nonchalant and casually mentions that she fell for his beautiful sister, and if she kills him, she'll have her forever. The guy's mind is blown away to hear this ridiculousness. He's just gutted by the fact that she's into women, not boys. Not surprisingly, the girl gets pissed at his reaction and storms at him, demanding to know what's wrong with liking women. But my guy quickly ducks her attack with ease and then uses his yin-yang eye to see through her every move. He dodges her kicks and punches with such smoothness, you'd think he was dancing. The lady's jaw drops at how he's reading her like an open book. In the next moment, my guy balls up his fist and starts throwing punches with a speed that's almost otherworldly. The woman's totally flabbergasted, struggling to comprehend how this kid is so ridiculously strong. Meanwhile, Han's ready for more, shouting that he won't let this filthy woman take his sister away. The lady is quite bewildered that this guy actually believed her made-up story. As if on cue, his sister also calls out from behind, asking what the hell he's doing up there. He turns around to see her and she tells him to get off the balcony because it's dangerous. He tries to explain about the lady who was attacking him, but when he looks around, she's already vanished without a trace. That woman then opens her balcony window and asks what he's doing outside the young lady's room, and she even pretends to be humiliated and harassed by our boy. But the guy quickly tells his sister that he wasn't peeping on her. However, his explanations fall on deaf ears as his sister gets absolutely annoyed. She makes it abundantly clear that if he doesn't get down right now, he's as good as dead. He tries to explain himself to his sister, but things go south quickly. She ends up giving him a slap so hard that he tumbles off the balcony. It's almost comical how she manages to slap him while standing on the ground and him being up high. The poor guy is left crying, trying to explain that it's all one big misunderstanding. But the girl just drags him down with her and tells him to shut up and go back to sleep. Meanwhile, the girl smirks, clearly enjoying the whole scene. The next morning, as he trudges down the stairs after a restless night, he grumbles about how his sister lectured him all night, and he didn't get any sleep. He blames that annoying woman for it all. When he reaches the living room, he sees his fatty friend, and Yunair is also there as well. Fatty gives him a friendly pat on the shoulder, commenting on how, in just a short time, he's already brought another pretty lady home. Han responds that it's a long story, and right now he's more curious about why Yunair looks so angry. The reason for her anger becomes clear when the redhead woman calls Han darling, and asks why he woke up so late, wondering if he's tired from last night's fun. Of course, Han's jaw drops as he wonders what the heck is going on. Yunair angrily stomps towards him, slams some plane tickets over his face, and tells him to just go to Southern Yunnan by himself. With those final words, she storms out. Fatty then reminds him that Yunair came here to give him the plane tickets, and remind him about going to Southern Yunnan. She got angry as soon as she saw the redhead woman. Finally realizing why Yunair is so upset, Han starts running after her. Meanwhile, Fatty also decides to tag along with the both of them. Before she leaves, Han finally catches up to Yunair and tells her to wait for him. He tries to convince her, explaining that there's nothing going on between him and that woman. He's only letting her stay temporarily because she saved his sister. Finally, the grumpy girl responds and asks how he's going to prove that he's not lying through his teeth. Han raises his index finger and swears on everything he said, claiming he's not lying, otherwise he'll be stoned to death. Yunair finally chills out and says she'll trust him. But just then, the sneaky woman calls him out with the title of Han Babe, all sweet and lovey-dovey. She tells him to come back because she has already started to miss him, and reminds him of the promise he made to give her a massage. Han is sure he's screwed, especially with Yunair ready to lay into him, so he frustratingly yells at the woman, asking her since when he promised to give her a massage. The girl reminds him that it was just yesterday when he was hanging outside her window, begging for a chance to give her a massage. This just makes this idiot even more frustrated. He shouts back that while he did cling to her window, he never mentioned anything about a massage. Well, Han's definitely dug his own grave with that last statement. Yunair, standing behind him, finally snaps in frustration. She starts calling him a pervert and asks what the heck he was doing outside her window in the middle of the night. He quickly turns to her, trying to explain, but she isn't having any of it. With one solid punch, she knocks him out of the place and storms off. Meanwhile, the redhead is having the time of her life, grinning from ear to ear. She even sticks out her tongue and makes fun of our boy, but he quickly snaps at her, asking her why she is acting like such a jerk. The woman just continues teasing, so he asks if she really thinks he wouldn't hit her just because she's a woman. The girl just provokes him in response, daring him to try hitting her. Han, increasingly annoyed, tells her that one punch would knock her out. The girl keeps pushing his buttons, saying she's waiting for him to try it. As they're going back and forth, Han finally unleashes his inner power. With a blue aura surrounding